Chapter 989. Don't worry. They won't be able to return this time. The Earth Demon Emperor's tongue was very long, like a snake's tongue. It could almost reach his ears. His eyes were no longer the original beast pupils. Instead, they were like the pupils of a hornet's nest, which contained countless compound eyes. Being stared at by him, Yi Chen and the other two felt like they were in a maze. Everything around them was getting further and further away. What a powerful eye technique! Xianhu raised her eyebrows, and a mysterious aura spread out. Under the interference of this aura, the illusion of the eye technique that was eroding reality was immediately forced out. What kind of realm is this? The Earth Demon Emperor stopped being careless. He wasn't good at fighting head-on. He was good at soul attacks and various illusion techniques. Although the eye technique just now wasn't his strongest illusion technique, it was very hard to defend against it. Moreover, it was extremely fast. Some kings who were stronger than him would fall into it if they were careless. 10,000 bugs, you've met your match this time. The Black Demon Emperor's body was emitting light black smoke. This smoke seemed to be spiritual, and it would transform into tentacles or palms from time to time, which was very shocking. As for the 10,000 bugs that the Black Demon Emperor mentioned, it was the Earth Demon Emperor. As the person who had taken over the body, his original personality had been devoured by them. The one who had taken over the Nirvana Demon Emperor was called Tian Xie, the one who had taken over the Golden Turtle Great Ancestor was called Jin Shuo, and the 10,000 bugs was the Earth Demon Emperor. As for the Black Demon Emperor, he was called Xie Shou. Humph, she only broke my compound eye technique. Later, I'll let her know what it means to want to die. The 10,000 bugs that had taken over the Earth Demon Emperor's body sneered. He was very confident in himself. After observing the characteristics of the three's aura, it wasn't hard for Yi Chen to guess that the evil spirit that had taken over the Golden Turtle Great Ancestor's body should be a strong attack type. He was very strong in head-on combat. The one that had taken over the Earth Demon Emperor's body should be good at illusion techniques. As for the evil spirit that had taken over the Black Demon Emperor's body, it should be a strange type. He probably had some powerful evil techniques. Seniors, you can just support me from the side. Leave them to me. It was impossible for Yi Chen to let Xianhu and the Demon Flower Emperor take the risk. Although the two of them had unique abilities, their battle prowess was slightly lower. In a one-on-one fight, it would be difficult for them to win. If they supported him from the side, they would be more useful. You're courting death. Let me, Gold Thug, deal with you. If they were in the outside world, Gold Thug might not be a match for Yi Chen. However, in here, he was fearless. With a loud roar, a dark golden metallic light erupted from his body. The light was extremely dazzling and filled with evil energy. As soon as it appeared, it immediately condensed into streaks of dark golden sharp blades. Like tens of thousands of arrows that shot out at the same time, they pierced through the air towards Yi Chen and enveloped Xianhu and the Demon Flower Emperor. Yi Chen's expression was calm as he unsheathed his iron-blooded silver-blue sword and slashed twice in the air. Ding, 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 ding. Countless sounds of metal colliding broke out. It seemed like Yi Chen had only brandished his sword twice, but he had blocked all the dark golden sharp blades that were coming at him. The speed of his sword was fast and the angle was accurate. It had reached an unbelievable and unpredictable realm. Even Xianhu and the Demon Flower Emperor were shocked. The most powerful swordsman since the ancient times. Even the ancient Sword King is not as good as him. He's really inhuman, the Demon Flower Emperor muttered in his heart. This kind of sword attack comes without any sign. It's without the heart or the sword. It has already surpassed the level of using the will or the heart to control the sword. Xuanho's eyesight was much better than the Demon Flower Emperor. Although she wasn't a swordsman, it didn't hinder her understanding of swordsmen. According to what she knew, there were 3 kinds of sword attack realms for swordsmen. They were body control sword, chi control sword, and the highest heart control sword. However, what Yi Chen had just displayed had clearly surpassed heart control sword. Using the heart to control the sword intent meant that the heart would move and the sword would move, making the sword heart bright. However, Yi Chen had just attacked without any warning, giving people a very abrupt feeling. It was as if the sword had already attacked before the intent had even moved. Thousands of dark golden sharp blades couldn't move an inch forward. It was as if there was a chi wall that extended far in front of Yi Chen, firmly protecting the three of them. Suddenly, Yi Chen flipped his wrist. As the sword light shot out, a trace of transparency appeared in the air. Tian Xie, who was occupying the Nirvana Demon Emperor's body, was undoubtedly the leader of the four. He frowned as he felt a strong sense of danger approaching. He's really arrogant. As the thought flashed through his mind, transparent hexagonal glass appeared around Tian Xie's body. These hexagonal glasses were embedded together, forming a seamless shield. Clang! Sparks flew everywhere. It seemed that something extremely sharp had slashed the shield. However, the next moment, Tian Xie's expression changed. There was a sword mark on his chest, and blood flowed out. How is this possible? I clearly blocked it. Tian Xie didn't care about such a small injury. What surprised him was how his opponent's sword chi managed to injure him. Even he only realized it after the fact. Moreover, he was 100% sure that his defensive barrier had completely sealed off the sword. Dense killing intent was released. Tian Xie stared coldly at Yi Chen. He couldn't let this kid grow any longer. Whether he admitted it or not, this kid had already become the most troublesome person in Elysium. What a pity. The one who had unleashed this sword was Yi Chen. He didn't use orbital slash. Although orbital slash could attack through protective energy, its destructive power was slightly weaker, and it didn't have much practical value. He used void energy slash. To a certain extent, void energy slash could also ignore protective energy, and its destructive power was much greater than orbital slash. If it could hit the opponent directly, it would definitely injure him and interrupt his unsealing. Apart from that, the core of this sword was that there was no sword in the heart. The intent came later, and the sword came first. When the opponent sensed danger, the sword chi had already arrived. However, the opponent's protective energy had been activated too quickly. It seemed to contain mental power. With a thought, the defense was formed. Although it wasn't as good as Yi Chen's no sword in the heart, considering the distance between them, the difference in time was more or less offset. In the end, the sword chi was slightly faster. The front part of the power was transmitted to the opponent, and the back part was blocked by the shield. Evil God Barrier. Tian Xie was corroding the blood seal, and he couldn't stop it. Luckily, he was prepared. He had placed many black crystals around the blood seal. Originally, he didn't plan on using them. He just wanted to prevent accidents from happening, but he didn't think that accidents would really happen. Yi Chen and the other two would find him. As the evil power surged into the black crystal, a black barrier rose up, enveloping the blood-red seal and the heavenly diabolism. Above the black barrier, a blurry figure condensed. Although the evil power was not as strong as the evil power in the blood-red seal, the difference was like heaven and earth. It was as if it really was the projection of the evil god. Peng peng peng. Yi Chen used his super-fast sword speed to continuously slash the black barrier, but it was like a clay ox entering the sea. He couldn't shake the evil barrier with the blurry image guarding it. Don't be arrogant. Seeing that Yi Chen didn't put them in his eyes at all, Wen Zong was enraged. Evil power poured out of his palms, turning into countless black crows. These crows cawed loudly and pounced at Yi Chen. A strange scene occurred. When Yi Chen's sword chi slashed at the black crows, it went right through them, as if they didn't exist at all. It's an illusion. Yi Chen had a feeling in his heart. I will deal with his illusion. The mysterious queen had dabbled in many mysterious daos, including illusions. She used her Zhen Yuan to condense a mirror, which expanded rapidly until it seemed to connect with the void. Those black crows that didn't exist in the mirror became corporeal and disappeared one after another. In the next moment, the black crows rushed out of the mirror and pounced towards the myriad bugs. Illusion rebound. Damn it. 10,000 insects knew how powerful his illusions were, and even though he could deal with them, he was caught off guard and cut a sorry figure. Countless crows drilled out of his mouth, eyes, and even chest, and a heart-wrenching pain spread through his entire body. He lost control of his evil power and started to dissipate, greatly weakening his aura. Peng 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 peng. Without any reason, Yi Chen's heart started to beat faster. He thought about something and looked at his heart. Inside the coconut-shaped heart, there was a crow that had appeared out of nowhere. It was trying to break out of the heart's wall. If a normal person were to see this, they would probably be scared to the point where their face would turn pale and their mind would be in a mess. What a powerful illusion. Although Xianhu had reflected the illusion, Yi Chen, who was the target, still suffered from the aftermath. I am immortal. Yi Chen did not know about illusion, nor did he cultivate it. His expression remained the same. The immortal sword soul in his sea of soul released a wisp of white holy light, covering his body. Poof! The crow in his heart suddenly disappeared. It was purely an illusion. At this moment, Gold Thug, who occupied the body of the Golden Turtle Great Ancestor, and Evil Hand, who occupied the body of the Black Fiend Emperor, seized the opportunity to attack. Gold Thug made a grabbing motion with his hand, and a dark golden machete was formed, slashing at Yi Chen. On Evil Hand's body, countless tentacles formed from evil power spread rapidly, entangling and attacking Yi Chen. Clang! Yi Chen cut the dark golden machete in half with his sword. Then, the iron blood silver blue sword took advantage of the momentum and swept out. The sword ray was like a mirror, shredding all the tentacles that were entangling him. Soldiers of evil. Evil Hand sneered, and an evil halo spread out from his body. The tentacles shredded by the halo reformed, but they were no longer in the shape of tentacles. Instead, they were evil hands with a much weaker aura. Hundreds of evil hands surrounded Yi Chen and attacked Yi Chen. Chickens and dogs, I'll let you witness my true strength. The sword aura on Yi Chen's body soared. All the evil hands attacking Yi Chen were chopped into nothingness by this frightening sword aura before they could even get close. At the same time, Yi Chen raised the iron blood silver blue sword and slashed down. Poochie. A dark green sword curtain seemed as if it would pierce through the sky. Compared to before, the current merciless water and fire was much more powerful. At this moment, Yi Chen was truly using the power of the first layer of life and death realm. Rumble. The earth shook. Be it Gold Thug, Evil Hand, or the insects that were trying their best to resist his illusion, they were all sent flying. Their bodies shattered in the air, blood mist filling the air. Chapter 990. This is the first layer of life and death realm. Being inside the evil god enchantment didn't mean that Tian Xie was ignorant of what was happening outside. His eyes seemed to be connected to the vague shadow above the enchantment. Whatever the shadow could see, he could also see. When Yi Chen's aura soared and shattered the bodies of Gold Fiend and the other two, Tian Xie was startled inwardly. Even his unsealing movements seemed to be somewhat affected. Life and death realm had a total of 9 layers. With each layer, the purity of one's Jin Yuan would increase by a large margin. This was not only an increase in one's battle power, but also in the level of one's power. It was like the difference between water and mercury. As an expert of evil spirit race, Tian Xie himself was also a great expert of life and death realm. However, due to the suppression of Elysium, he could only exert his strength to the 4th layer. Moreover, his origin had suffered quite a bit of damage. Cracks had appeared on his Dao gate, which led to it being sealed. He had only managed to break free in recent days. After countless years, his aura had been branded with Elysium's aura, and he had also possessed Nirvana Demon Emperor's body. Thus, Elysium's suppression on him wasn't as strong as before. However, only his origin had recovered, and his realm was still suppressed by 2 layers. At present, he was merely at the unharmed 4th layer of life and death realm. Moreover, since he had yet to familiarize himself with Nirvana Demon Emperor's body, he could only display 70 to 80% of his battle power. Therefore, after breaking free, Tian Xie didn't dare to immediately start a massacre and slaughter the kings of Elysium. He knew that with his current strength, it was still not enough for him to jump around. However, the fact that Yi Chen had reached the first sky of life and death realm made him feel extremely uneasy. The reason why the evil spirit race and the demons sealed the entrance of Elysium was to limit the lifespan of Elysium's kings to 1,000 years, making it impossible for them to increase their cultivation base. However, in every generation, a peerless character would appear in Elysium. These peerless characters could break through the shackles and cultivate to the first or even the second layer of life and death realm, greatly increasing their battle power and energy recovery speed, allowing them to contend with fifth-layer life and death realm experts. These people's achievements in martial arts and martial will would be extremely frightening even in the outside world, not to mention the small Elysium. Otherwise, how could they fight above their realm? They had been fighting for so many years without gaining the upper hand. Yi Chen had entered the first sky of life and death realm. Didn't this mean that he was this era's peerless character, and had the potential to turn the situation around? With his current first sky of life and death realm, I'm afraid his strength is not below mine. It seems like only by undoing the seal and letting Lord Evil Wind escape can we thoroughly deal with him together. Lord Evil Wind inside the Blood Seal was even stronger than him. He was a seventh sky of life and death realm expert. Even if his realm was suppressed by Elysium, he could still erupt with the battle power of a fifth sky of life and death realm expert. However, it was unknown how much power he had left after being sealed for 10,000 years. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, Tian Xie concentrated even more on condensing symbols and eroding the blood seal. Outside the evil god enchantment, Gold Thug, Thousand Bugs, and Evil Hand were chopped into pieces by Yi Chen's sword. Before the blood mist could disperse, it was caught up by the domineering green radiance, turning into nothingness. Undead Evil River. Suddenly, a river of evil energy condensed from the surrounding mist and rushed over, drowning the green light and wrapping a blurry dark golden shadow inside. It was Gold Thug. Gold Thug's cultivation base was much denser than Thousand Bugs and Evil Hand. At the crucial moment, he used an evil art, drawing the boundless evil power from the fog to replenish himself. Demonic Flower, absorb. Seeing this, Demon Flower Emperor waved his palm, and a black demonic flower rapidly enlarged, intercepting the evil river. The frightening evil power poured into the demonic flower, which couldn't absorb so much evil power in a short time. Thus, it couldn't help but expand from the size of a house to the size of a mountain. 8 trigrams extermination. Yi Chen's eyes were ice-cold as he raised his left index and middle fingers, pointing at Gold Thug. Buzz. The Sky Scorpio sword unsheathed itself and divided into 8, which then turned into 64, forming an 8-trigram sword array filled with the aura of extermination. It swept toward Gold Thug, not giving him any chance. Gold Thug was extremely weak at this moment. Although he had a portion of the evil power to replenish himself, how could he convert it all into his own power? He was instantly swept into the 8-trigram sword array and turned into nothingness. Clang. Returning the Sky Scorpio sword to its sheath, Yi Chen looked at the evil god enchantment. Let me try out this enchantment's defense first. The demonic flower had absorbed too much evil power. The Demon Flower Emperor's left and right hands each held a demonic light sphere. The sphere on his right hand had already reached 1 meter in diameter, and its powerful demonic ripples even caused the surrounding fog to disperse. With a swish, the Demon Flower Emperor's right hand shot out, and the demonic light sphere shot toward the evil god enchantment. Inside the evil god enchantment, Tian Xie coldly watched and snorted inwardly. As long as the upper-grade evil power crystal's energy hasn't been exhausted, even if your strength had doubled, you still wouldn't be able to break the evil god enchantment. Evil power crystals were on the same level as Jin Yuan crystals. Low-rank ones could only be easily condensed by evil spirit kings at the first sky of life and death realm. Mid-rank ones would need to be at the 4th sky of life and death realm, while top-rank ones would need to be at the 7th sky of life and death realm. Any top-rank evil power crystal contained an astonishing evil power, and its quality was extremely high. Although the evil god enchantment that used top-rank evil power crystals might not necessarily need to be at the 7th sky of life and death realm to be broken, it would at least need to be at the 5th sky of life and death realm. As expected, when the demonic light sphere struck the evil god enchantment, apart from creating a small ripple, it didn't shake the enchantment in the slightest. The Demon Flower Emperor's complexion remained unchanged. Just as she threw out the demonic light sphere in her right hand, the one in her left hand followed right after. At the same time, a new demonic light sphere appeared in her right hand. Since she couldn't break the evil god enchantment in one strike, The Demon Flower Emperor didn't believe that 10 or even 100 strikes wouldn't have the same effect. In any case, these demonic light spheres were transformed from the evil power, and they seemed to be endless. Her own consumption wasn't that great, and she could maintain it for a very long time. Mysterious Tao, heaven and earth reversal. Xianhu also knew that this was a crucial moment. If they couldn't break the evil god enchantment before the blood seal was lifted, they would have to face two powerful enemies. Her hands rapidly formed seals, and an even larger ancient gate appeared, covering the indistinct image above the evil god enchantment. That indistinct image didn't have any consciousness, and allowed the ancient gate to envelop it. Buzz. After being struck by the demonic light sphere dozens of times, the evil god enchantment, which was still as stable as Mount Tai, suddenly started to tremble. The mirror-like surface of the enchantment began to distort at an astonishing frequency. You actually want to reverse the structure of the evil god enchantment. Tian Xie's anger soared to the sky. Runes condensed in his right hand, eroding the blood seal, while his left hand shot out an evil art, pouring it into the indistinct image above the enchantment. You disobeyed me, so you must die. The indistinct image's body lightly trembled, and the ancient gate shattered into thousands of pieces. The reversal power also disappeared. Puff. The ancient gate, which was connected to their minds, shattered. Xianhu instantly spat out a mouthful of blood, and her face turned pale. This enchantment's power is too strong. Unless I can reach the next level, I won't be able to shake it. Xianhu sat cross-legged on the ground, and her aura surged. Devil's flower, devour heaven and earth. The Demon Flower Emperor was truly enraged. He no longer used demonic light spheres to attack the evil god enchantment. Instead, he sent the Devil's Flower over, intending to use it to absorb the enchantment's power. Overestimating yourself. The indistinct image couldn't attack, but that didn't mean it would passively take a beating. The moment the Devil's Flower flew over, it was torn into two. Evil flames burned, and the Devil's Flower turned into ashes. Seniors, leave the rest to me. In front of absolute defense, only absolute power could break it. Of course, if one's technique reached an earth-shattering level, they could also break it. Unfortunately, powerful techniques also needed time to accumulate. Xianhu wasn't old, and it was already very rare for her to have such achievements. In reality, Yi Chen was very clear that although Xuanho's battle power was inferior to his, in terms of achievements, she wasn't inferior to him by much. The main reason was that the profound Tao was all-encompassing, and involved too many things. It consumed a lot of energy. If Xianhu was like him and walked the path of pure martial arts, her battle power would definitely be much higher than now. Everyone had their own pursuits. Yi Chen pursued the pinnacle of the martial Tao and the pinnacle of the sword Tao. As for Xianhu, her pursuits were probably the profound mysteries of heaven and earth. The Earth Fiend sword art had long been executed. The reason why Yi Chen didn't make a move earlier was because he was absorbing the Earth Origin Baneful Qi. The more Earth Origin Baneful Qi the Earth Fiend sword art contained, the stronger its might would be. There wasn't much time left. Yi Chen had to break the enchantment in one sword strike and interrupt the opponent's unsealing action. Strands, strands, strands. The huge purple sword that entered the ground was rapidly dyed black. Boundless Earth Origin Baneful Qi surged over from all directions, rushing into the huge black sword. I wonder how powerful the Earth Fiend sword ART's ultimate might is. With their minds connected, Yi Chen could feel that the current black sword's might was several times stronger than when it was used against Shu King. Furthermore, it was still increasing rapidly. What is he doing? Tian Xie sensed something was wrong. It's about time. When the huge black sword started to distort and the energy started to become unstable, Yi Chen made a prompt decision and pushed the huge black sword out of the ground. Go. With a finger movement, the huge black sword carried boundless baneful qi and attacked the heretical god barrier. With a pull, the blurry figure on the heretical god barrier suddenly stretched out his right hand and sent a palm strike at the huge black sword. However, the heretical god barrier's power was mostly used for defense. The blurry figure could only use less than 10% of its power. How could it contend against the huge black sword? His palm was directly destroyed by the sword. Pu. In the next moment, the huge black sword pierced through the heretical god barrier and shot towards Tianxia. Boom. At this moment, the blood seal that had been corroded by 4/5 of the heretical god barrier suddenly broke. A palm that was completely condensed from evil energy grabbed the huge black sword. Tianxia, I'll have to trouble you. A sinister voice rang out. Chapter 991. It can actually grab the Earth Fiend sword condensed from the Earth Fiend sword art? Yi Chen's brows couldn't help but crease. The fact that the gigantic Earth Fiend sword could break through the heretic god barrier was within his expectations. After all, the heretic god barrier had been bombarded by the Devil Flower Sovereign before, and its structure had been distorted by the mysterious Empress with her profound Tao. It seemed to be undamaged, but there were already signs of instability. Otherwise, there would be no need for the evil spirit race experts who had occupied the Terminator Demon Emperor's body to activate the blurry phantom image above the heretic god barrier. As for his Earth Fiend sword art, it had absorbed enough Earth Fiend evil chi, and its might had reached a level that even he couldn't control. Breaking the enchantment with one strike was naturally a matter of course. However, the evil power condensed into a huge hand grabbing the Earth Fiend sword was beyond his expectations. Although the Earth Fiend sword had already consumed a large amount of energy to shatter the vague hand and penetrate the evil god enchantment, grabbing and blocking were not on the same level. Grabbing meant that it still had energy left, while blocking meant that it had gone all out. Clang. Yi Chen's soul power was not something that ordinary people could compare with after all. With a thought, the Earth Fiend huge sword was like a sharp saw that could cut open mountains and the ground. It sliced forward violently, and the huge hand formed by the evil power was cut in half, losing its control over the Earth Fiend huge sword. Not good. After the evil hand was cut in half, the remaining might of the Earth Fiend sword could not be underestimated. It furiously slashed toward Tianxia, and the incomparably frightening evil chi combined with the destructive sword intent could almost cut through a person's soul. However, Tianxia was at the fourth layer of life and death realm. Even if he could only display 70 to 80% of his battle power in the Nirvana Demon Emperor's body, it was still not something Shu King could compare to. His right hand suddenly clenched into a fist, heavily bombarding the Earth Fiend sword with a biting cold evil chi. Clang. The Earth Fiend sword was blasted away, and Tianxia himself also retreated 10 steps with blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. I'm afraid we won't be able to resolve this peacefully today. Yi Chen sighed inwardly as the Earth Fiend gigantic sword entered the ground. Not to mention the evil spirit powerhouse that was about to escape, just the person who had occupied the Nirvana Demon Emperor's body was not someone who could be easily defeated. The other party's punch just now was extremely domineering, filled with killing intent and evil. It was clearly an extremely powerful martial art. However, this martial art was unique to the evil spirit race. It was completely different from the martial arts of Elysium. Crackle. Bang. In this short instant, the blood seal first shattered into thousands of pieces, then turned into nothingness. A ferocious tiger coming out of its cage and the gates of hell opened erupted like a volcano. The frightening movement caused the entire True Water Palace ruins to tremble. The outer seal flickered, and from time to time, some of the weaker seals dissipated into thin air, blown away by the frightening evil wind. If not for the seal formed by countless Yuan characters, a huge hole would have appeared in the energy barrier of the True Water Palace ruins, causing endless seawater to pour in. At that time, even if Yi Chen and the rest could travel through the void, they would still suffer some injuries. Ha ha ha, I, the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor, have finally escaped. Who in the world can be my opponent? The fierce evil wind rotated and compressed at high speed, condensing into a human figure. This person was tall, wearing a blue Taoist robe. Although he was not young, looking to be in his 50s or 60s, he gave people a very strange temperament, as if he was a Taoist expert. However, his eyes ruined the whole feeling. A trace of a mysterious gaze drifted around, and anyone who was looked at by him would feel as if they were being stared at by a poisonous snake, unable to sleep at night. Welcome, Lord Yin Wind. Tianxia's face revealed a happy expression. From the momentum just now, Even if the yin-wind demonic emperor's strength was not even 30% of his peak, it was still much stronger than him. One day, he would obtain a treasure to replenish his essence qi, and his strength would definitely reach the peak. As long as a peerless figure like the Yuan Emperor did not appear, he would be invincible in the world. Sure enough, True Water Emperor's body was already possessed by an evil spirit race's expert. The speaker was Yuan Emperor. Although the painting was in his storage ring, Yuan Emperor and Yi Chen's minds were connected. What Yi Chen could see, Yuan Emperor could also see. At this moment, seeing the other's appearance, Yuan Emperor's voice resounded in Yi Chen's mind, sighing incessantly. Since this person has already possessed True Water Emperor's body, who sealed him? And even buried the entire True Water Palace's king, leading to the destruction of True Water Palace? Yi Chen was puzzled. Yuan Emperor said, although the nature of that blood seal was different from True Water Emperor's Blue Ocean seal, upon careful observation, it was actually a change in the nature of the same form. Yi Chen's mind was clear, and he suddenly said, so, it seems that the one who sealed the Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor was True Water Emperor himself. Although True Water Emperor's body was possessed, it was only his body, and his soul still had its own consciousness. He knew that his consciousness would be devoured by the Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor, so in order to avoid harming Elysium, he used a method to seal himself. The reason why he didn't use his own Blue Ocean seal was probably because it was closely related to him, and he was afraid that it wouldn't be able to trap him. Therefore, he used an extremely sinister seal, sealing himself at the cost of many True Water Palace's king. That should be the case. Yi Chen's reasoning was the same as Yuan Emperor's. Knowing the truth of the matter, Yi Chen was filled with emotion. What True Water Emperor did was undoubtedly sacrificing himself for the greater good. He sealed himself at the cost of the destruction of True Water Palace, so that Elysium could avoid disaster. Although such an act was too cruel and ruthless for the people of True Water Palace, it was a great concern for the people of the world. Not only True Water Emperor, but also countless emperors throughout the ages would rather sacrifice themselves to protect everything they wanted to protect for Elysium and the people of the world. Among them, there were high and low achievements, but they were all great. It was because of their existence that Elysium could survive to this day and not be enslaved by foreign races. Sigh. In fact, he didn't have to do this. With my strength back then, I was worried about not having a worthy opponent. How could I be afraid of a mere Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor? For a peerless character like Yuan Emperor, if he couldn't leave Elysium, the stronger the enemy, the stronger his battle intent would be. In the later stages of his life, in order to find an opponent, he had barged into death's door dozens of times. Each time, he was able to escape unscathed. Even the most serious time, he only suffered a light injury. Nobody knew what True Water Emperor was thinking at that time. Perhaps he thought that Yuan Emperor shouldn't have been put in danger. If Yuan Emperor lost, he would at most die, but if Elysium lost, it would be beyond redemption. Peerless characters of every generation seemed to involve luck. Once luck was lost, it would be hard to condense again in a short period of time, making it impossible for a new peerless character to appear. First Sky of Life and Death Realm. It seems like you are the top warrior of this generation of Elysium. If I kill you, Elysium will not have the power to fight anymore. Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor sensed Yi Chen's cultivation base, and after a slight shock, his face turned into ecstasy. Back then, he was only able to possess True Water Emperor's body because the latter had forcefully barged into the path of death and suffered an injury to his soul. Otherwise, even if his strength was higher than True Water Emperor's, he wouldn't have been able to succeed. It should be known that possession was a double-edged sword. If he failed, he would die trying. After occupying the body of the Emperor of True Water, the Emperor of Yin Wind hid himself for 10,000 years. He wanted to devour the soul of the Emperor of True Water so that his strength could reach a higher level. Then, he could fight against the primitive Emperor who seemed to be more powerful than the Emperor of True Water. Unfortunately, at the critical moment, the soul of the Emperor of True Water came back to life and occupied the dominant position. He sealed himself for 15,000 years at the cost of blood. Now that he was free, the endless seal made him thirsty for battle. Even if his current strength was only 20 to 30% of his peak, The current Yi Chen didn't even have 1/5 of Yuan Emperor's strength. Killing him wouldn't be too difficult. Killing you will mean one less peerless expert in the great calamity of the foreign races. Not to mention that Yin Wind Evil Emperor wanted to kill him, Yi Chen didn't intend to return empty-handed. Whether it was Tian Xie or Yin Wind Evil Emperor, they were both targets he wanted to kill. He couldn't imagine what it would be like if his strength was restored to its peak. Instead of waiting for that day to come, it would be better to end it early. Good confidence. Unfortunately, confidence can't bring you victory. Tian Xie, don't do it. I'll fight him first. Yin Wind Evil Emperor wasn't a righteous person. He didn't let Tian Xie do it now because he was confident that he could defeat Yi Chen. If he really couldn't defeat Yi Chen, it wouldn't be too late for him to take action. Saber. After saying this, the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor waved his right hand, and at the original location of the blood-colored seal, an evil weapon with dense evil qi broke out of the ground and fell into his hand. You're a swordsman, and I'm also a blade expert of the Evil Spirit clan. Today, I'll use my 100 battles evil saber to kill you. With the evil saber in his hand, the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's body burst forth with an extremely evil and tyrannical saber force. Under the guidance of this saber force, his entire person seemed to have turned into a saber, an evil saber that could behead souls. Block my sword first, then we'll talk. Under the ground, a huge black sword shot out. The boundless Earth Yuan evil qi was restrained by the destruction sword intent, and became extremely condensed. As soon as the sword was thrown out, the space was cut open, and a pitch-black crack appeared in the air. Kai. Under the stimulation of Yi Chen's soul power, the Earth Fiend huge sword was as fast as the aurora. Even with Yin Wind Evil Emperor's perception, he couldn't dodge it in an instant. Yin Wind Evil Emperor was shocked and angry at the same time. Previously, although he had grabbed the Earth Fiend huge sword, it was because the Earth Fiend huge sword had shattered the blurry phantom's palm and pierced through the evil god enchantment, which consumed more than half of its power. If he had known that the Earth Fiend huge sword was so powerful, he wouldn't have given Yi Chen any time to prepare his attack. Moon has waxing and waning. The Yin Wind Demonic Emperor let out a roar. He raised his evil blade with both hands and slashed at the Earth Fiend gigantic sword. The grey blade screen in the void evolved into a fragmented bright moon, which contained the transformation of yin and yang. The blade energy seemed fragmented, but it was incomparably ferocious. It was like a person who was born with a disability and had been bullied and bullied, with a twisted hatred in his heart. Chapter 992. Clang. The demonic saber and the earthly fiend gigantic sword collided with each other in the most violent manner. For a moment, sparks flew in all directions, forming a line, gushing and exploding in the strangest manner. It was as if the order of space had been disrupted. The transfer of power became bizarre and motley, and no one could even think of seeing the complete trajectory. Puff! A mouthful of cold blood spurted out, and the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor was sent flying backward by the huge Earth Fiend sword, and suddenly disappeared into the distant fog. The huge Earth Fiend sword paused for a moment, and then slashed forward at a speed several times faster than the opponent. Wherever it went, a thick sword mark appeared on the ground, and the fog was split apart. Anything that blocked this sword was torn apart in a destructive manner. Raging sea waves. Although the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor was sent flying, the moment he landed on the ground, he immediately raised his saber and attacked again. This time, although the saber energy was not as ferocious as the last time, it was more and more violent, like monstrous raging waves, unceasing. As a saber expert of the evil spirit race, the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's research on techniques was very profound. The power of the Earth Fiend giant sword seemed to be invincible, but a part of it had already been offset by his most ferocious full moon, and the remaining power was less than 80% of its original power. It just happened to be continuous power, and the saber energy was stronger than the previous one. Clang 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 clang. After the first saber hit the Earth Fiend giant sword, the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor immediately sent out the second saber, the third saber. The saber speed was getting faster and faster, as if there was no end, and in an instant, a total of 17 saber strikes hit the Earth Fiend giant sword. Bang! The 18th saber strike was sent out, and the Earth Fiend giant sword was sent flying, but the Yin Wind demonic emperor was also not good. The first 17 saber strikes, he was not unscathed, but he knew that he could not retreat now. Once he retreated, the saber energy would be thwarted, and he would no longer be able to stop the advance of the Earth Fiend giant sword, and he would inevitably be pierced by the sword. After the Earth Fiend giant sword was sent flying, the Yin Wind demonic emperor finally could not suppress the injury, and his arms exploded inch by inch, and a bloody hole appeared in his chest. It turned out that although the Earth Fiend giant sword failed to attack the body of the Yin Wind demonic emperor, but the invincible sword energy had already passed to him. If it was not for the raging sea waves of the Yin Wind demonic emperor and the continuous saber energy, this sword could have seriously injured the Yin Wind demonic emperor. Good sword control technique. The Yin Wind demonic emperor's face turned pale, and his eyes emitted a blazing, eerie killing intent. Same here. To be honest, the Yin Wind demonic emperor's saber art wasn't anything special. Although it had a profound meaning and was incomparably tyrannical, it hadn't been fully mastered yet. It could only be used to scare those whose martial arts realm was lower than his. However, the Yin Wind demonic emperor's evil energy was powerful, and his evil will was also incomparably mysterious. He was able to unleash this saber art to an extremely ferocious level. I just don't know if you'll be able to unleash such a sword strike again. How could the Yin Wind demonic emperor not see that this imperial sword technique needed to absorb the Earth origin evil chi underground? If there was no Earth origin evil chi, he could easily break this move with a casual slash. And since he knew the weakness of this sword technique, how could he give Yi Chen the opportunity to absorb the Earth origin evil chi? Let's wait and see. Yi Chen reached out his hand, and the huge purple sword disintegrated in the air, turning into a purple longsword and falling into his hand. The reason why he was able to injure the Yin Wind demonic emperor with the Earth Fiend sword technique was because the Yin Wind demonic emperor didn't understand the Earth Fiend sword technique. But now that the Yin Wind demonic emperor knew the weakness of the Earth Fiend sword technique, he obviously wouldn't give him the opportunity to accumulate power. It should be known that the reason why he could injure Shu King with this move was because Shu King's battle strength was inferior to his. He could use the Earth Fiend sword technique to absorb the Earth origin evil chi while fighting. However, the Yin Wind demonic emperor wasn't someone that could be compared to Shu King. Judging from the fact that the Yin Wind demonic emperor could barely resist the Earth Fiend sword technique, his battle strength was several times higher than Shu King's. Without the Sky Scorpio sword, Yi Chen was absolutely not the Yin Wind demonic emperor's opponent. Once he used the Earth Fiend sword technique to absorb the Earth origin evil chi, the Yin Wind demonic emperor would definitely heavily injure or even kill him. At that time, the Earth Fiend sword technique would collapse by itself, unless he had a second supreme grade sword. After all, how could the Iron Blood Silver Blue sword compare to a supreme grade sword? Therefore, only with the Sky Scorpio sword in his hand could Yi Chen have the power to fight. As for the Earth Fiend sword technique performed by the Sky Scorpio sword, he naturally couldn't use it. The Earth Fiend sword technique performed by the Iron Blood Silver Blue sword was useless. Good, let's see how you will receive my moon has imperfection this time. The Yin Wind demonic emperor roared. His body turned into a blade light, and the blade followed him. The mournful grey blade light formed a broken moon between the two, and the gap was facing Yi Chen's direction. Facing the Yin Wind demonic emperor's brutal blade, Yi Chen's eyes turned solemn, but his hands weren't slow. No, his hands' movements had reached the pinnacle. Obviously, it was the Yin Wind demonic emperor who attacked first, but when the blade light swept over, it became Yi Chen who attacked first, directly attacking the gap of the blade light. Clang! As the blade and sword collided, a dark green flame burst out, accompanied by an incomparably soft and sharp aura. Yi Chen's merciless water and fire was forcibly twisted into strands by the opponent's blade light, and the sword energy couldn't advance even an inch. As for himself, blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth, and he had to retreat 8 steps before he could neutralize the blade energy. The reason why the Yin Wind demonic emperor couldn't follow up with another attack was not because he didn't want to, but because he couldn't, because he had also taken 3 steps back. This sword attack of Yi Chen contained the sword energy of the fusion of water and fire, which had a destructive explosive power. The realm of his sword art was unimaginably high, but what really shocked him wasn't Yi Chen's sword art. After all, no matter how powerful his sword art was, if the foundation was too weak, it would be useless. What shocked him was that he was the one who attacked first, but in the end, he was the one who attacked first. Yi Chen didn't wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth. Although the opponent's blade energy shook his blood and chi, it still couldn't hurt him. And with the realm of no sword in hand and no sword in heart, it was enough to attack first, so that the opponent's blade energy could only be displayed at 70 to 80%. In other words, the attack power of Yi Chen was actually a lot weaker than that of the Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor. The reason why he could force the Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor to retreat 3 steps with one strike was because of the high realm of his sword art. Sometimes, a high attack power might not be able to display all of it. Damn, take my raging sea waves again. The Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor hated the experts of Elysium very much. These people's foundation was not as good as his, but for some reason, each of them had a very high realm of martial arts. When he took over the body of Emperor True Water, he had a terrible battle with him, but at that time, Emperor True Water's soul was injured, and his combat power could only be displayed at most 80%. Originally, the Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor thought that he could easily injure Emperor True Water again and then take over the body of Emperor True Water. Unexpectedly, although Emperor True Water's combat power was not as good as his, but with his high realm of martial arts, he fought with him for a day and a night. Finally, he was exhausted and lost the power to resist, which was a shame for him. The most humiliating thing was that Emperor True Water lost the power to resist, and he was also seriously injured. Otherwise, he would not have been dormant for 10,000 years and wasted so much time. Now, Yi Chen's foundation was much worse than that of Emperor True Water, and his realm of martial arts was far less than that of Emperor True Water, but in terms of sword art, he had reached that level, and even surpassed it. The moon's waxing and waning focused on ferocity and strength. The raging sea waves, in terms of ferocity, were not as ferocious as the moon's waxing and waning, but in terms of continuous blade energy, it was more than 10 times that of the moon's waxing and waning. Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor was afraid of Yi Chen's realm of sword art, so he planned to use speed to drown Yi Chen with wave after wave of blade energy. He did not believe that Yi Chen could break the raging sea waves cleanly. In the distance, Xianhu and Demon Flower Emperor were adjusting their breathing while watching the battle. At the same time, they were on guard against Tian Xie. Once Tian Xie made a move, they would definitely join the battle. They were very clear in their hearts that this was the decisive battle between Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor and Yi Chen. If they rashly made a move, not only would they weaken Yi Chen's momentum, but they would also be more of a help. Any casual strike of Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor could seriously injure them. When the difference in combat strength was too great, skills and so on were useless. Seeing the boundless blade energy slashing towards Yi Chen, Demon Flower Emperor and Xianhu couldn't help feeling their hearts tighten. It was not that they did not trust Yi Chen, but the Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor was not an ordinary person. This was a demon that had once wreaked havoc in Elysium. If the Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor was a raging wave, then Yi Chen was a small boat in this raging wave. Although he relied on his skills to prevent the small boat from being submerged, this situation was too dangerous. If he was the slightest bit careless, the boat would be destroyed and he would die. Such a pity, a peerless character. If you want to blame something, blame yourself for not having enough time. Tian Xie's fear of Yi Chen was even greater than that of the Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor. After devouring the Nirvana Demon Emperor's soul, he had obtained the majority of the Nirvana Demon Emperor's memories. Naturally, he knew everything about Yi Chen. He had to admit that if given enough time, Yi Chen's radiance would be enough to illuminate the past and present. Even those peerless characters who had died might not be able to catch up to him. The evil, berserk, world-beheading blade energy swept over, but Yi Chen's expression didn't change. Perhaps, to him, fighting had already become his life. Stepping onto the peak of the martial Tao, the peak of the sword Tao, was his mission. Even if the heavens fell and the earth split apart, or the doomsday descended, he wouldn't panic. Swish! The Sky Scorpio sword struck out, and an astonishing scene occurred. Yi Chen's body was like a phantom. As soon as the sword struck out, countless figures appeared. Each of Yi Chen's movements were different. They either leaped up, turned sideways, lowered their center of gravity, or flashed. In an instant, countless sword lights rushed into the raging sea of blade energy. Swish! The boundless blade energy shattered, and the numerous Yi Chens merged back into one. How is this possible? The Yin-Wind demonic emperor forgot to continue attacking. The shock that Yi Chen had brought him went straight to his soul. As the one who had started the raging sea, he was very clear that each of Yi Chen's sword attacks was aimed at the weak points of the raging sea. The sky-high waves seemed unstoppable, but they contained countless changes in power. In a split second, Yi Chen had destroyed all the power within them. Without the support of power, the sky-high waves instantly collapsed. Although their remaining momentum was still fierce and unstoppable, they had already lost their momentum. Chapter 993. With a sword in one's heart, it was hard to avoid mistakes, because the human heart was not perfect. Without a sword in one's heart, one would be able to achieve true precision and perfection. Just like how you cared about something, but if you cared about it too much, you would lose your original judgment. Being without a sword in one's heart didn't mean giving up on the sword, it was just fusing the sword into one's blood and spirit, becoming a part of oneself. Originally, Yi Chen had only comprehended the state of being without a sword in one's heart, but under the pressure of Yin-Wind demonic emperor, Yi Chen's body instinctively moved. In other words, taking out the sword had already become his instinct, without the need to think in his heart. At this moment, the thoughts in his heart could no longer keep up with Yi Chen's instinct. Raging Evil Chop. Yin-Wind demonic emperor's famous blade art was the Yin-Wind 6 spells, and this was the third style. Compared to Full Moon, this move was not only brutal, but also had a lawless arrogance. Compared to Raging Sea Waves, this move's violence was purer and more direct. The Yin-Wind 6 spells could be said to be the combination of 6 sets of blade arts, and each style was the strongest move of the set. Boom! Amidst the earth-shattering noise, a sharp saber light extended out. The farther the distance, the longer the saber light became. It seemed like it could be stretched infinitely, and with the most violent manner, it slashed at the enemy. Since the move was not exquisite enough, then he would use absolute blade energy to crush the opponent. Guarding sword like a mountain, Yi Chen did not blindly attack. The opponent's blade energy had already reached the point of ignoring the flaws. Even if he could hit the flaws, the remaining blade energy would be enough to heavily injure him. Holding the Sky Scorpio sword with both of his hands, Yi Chen let out a low roar. His entire body's sword energy soared as he fiercely stabbed the sword into the ground. In the next moment, the berserk sword energy, with Yi Chen as the center, erupted upwards. Because the sword energy erupted too fast, when it reached the highest point, it slowed down again, causing a large amount of sword energy to stack up, continuously compressing and solidifying, eventually condensing into a towering mountain phantom. The cliff was overflowing with greenery. Catcher! The sharp blade light fiercely slashed on the illusory mountain peak, splashing up countless illusory stones. Compared to real stones, these illusory stones were many times harder, even steel and iron couldn't compare. After this strike, although the illusory sword-shaped mountain peak was covered with cracks, it wasn't cut into two. Defensive sword move. It wasn't that the Yin-Wind demonic emperor hadn't seen defensive sword moves before, but those were all old antiques who had lived for thousands of years. His evil spirit race had experts who had created defensive sword moves, but how old was Yi Chen? Yi Chen's blood and qi were boiling, but he didn't move at all. This move was a defensive sword move that he had created in the past year, and it contained both Earth Profound and Wood Profound. For a sword artist, it was good to be aggressive, but it didn't mean that he could only attack and not defend. When there was a huge difference in strength between him and the enemy, a defensive sword move was the only chance to turn the situation around, because only by staying alive could he counterattack. Let's see how many of my attacks you can block. The Yin-Wind demonic emperor no longer wasted his energy on being surprised. There was only one thought left in his mind, and that was to kill Yi Chen. The sharp blade light was like a violent storm, crazily slashing towards the illusory mountain peak. Every time it slashed, it would expand the cracks on it, and even if Yi Chen used all his strength to repair the cracks, he still couldn't offset this destructive speed. Break for me. Seeing that the illusory mountain peak was about to collapse, the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's evil force surged, and he slashed out the fourth move of the Yin Wind art, Yin Wind Wavebreaker. In silence, the illusory mountain peak was split into two, and the bone-piercing blade light was like a cold wind sweeping over the sea, sweeping towards Yi Chen. This was the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's killing move, and it was also the moment for Yi Chen to counterattack. The moment the illusory mountain peak was shattered, Yi Chen's killing move had already finished accumulating power. He pulled out the Sky Scorpio sword from the ground, and with a slanted slash, a dazzling light burst out. The moment the light burst out, the space within several meters suddenly became still. The blade energy that the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor had sent out was blurry like a cold wind, but after the space became still, the cold wind rapidly condensed, turning into a transparent, grey blade light that was as thin as a cicada's wing. Just like that, it froze in front of Yi Chen. At the same time, Yi Chen's Sky Scorpio sword slowly pierced towards the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor. The light it emitted was distorted, as if it had entered a kaleidoscope. The third move of the heaven-shattering sword arts, momentary brilliance. No. The Yin Wind Demonic Emperor roared inwardly. He could feel that the closer he got to the tip of Yi Chen's sword, the greater the void pressure he felt. This void pressure did not only affect his outer appearance, but also his thoughts. From the inside to the outside, he couldn't move a single inch. His blood stopped flowing, Jin Yuan stopped flowing, and even the most basic particles of flesh and blood stopped moving. As if a year had passed, or just a moment, Yi Chen's Sky Scorpio sword slowly sank into the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's heart. In the next moment, the space returned to normal, and Yi Chen's movement was released. The tip of the sword came out of the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's back, creating a bloody hole on his chest and back. At the same time, the grey-colored blade light in the void cut through Yi Chen's left shoulder. The blood was frozen like ice, and not a single drop of blood splashed out. Pulling out the sword, Yi Chen's figure flashed, and he retreated. Along the way, he vomited several mouthfuls of blood. This blood was brimming with vitality, and contained rich life yuan qi. What was life yuan qi? Specifically speaking, it was lifespan. After vomiting several mouthfuls of blood filled with life yuan qi, Yi Chen didn't know how many years of lifespan he had lost. At least, he felt that something was missing. What? Standing still, the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor wanted to vomit blood, but he found that he couldn't vomit anything. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels, as well as his chest bones, were all devoured by this sword. The Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's eyes were filled with shock and anger, and there was a vague fear that he couldn't get rid of. This sword had brought him too much of a threat. Under this sword, at least 1/3 of the evil power in his body had been annihilated. Countless sword chi was roaming inside his body, and he couldn't get rid of it in a short time. He could only use his own evil power to resist. How could there be such a fast sword? I couldn't even see the process. Demon Flower Emperor sucked in a breath of cold air. She wasn't the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor, and from her angle, she didn't see the space freeze. She only saw a dazzling light flash, so fast that she thought she was hallucinating. This is the advanced use of space profound. Xuanho's eyes had never been so serious. That flash of image kept appearing in her mind, and she tried to analyze it. What sword art is this? Tian Xie's nerves were stretched taut. That flash was too short, and he couldn't react at all. He only knew that after Yi Chen's defense was broken, the two separated again. Tian Xie was heavily injured, and Yi Chen lost an arm. The hand holding the Sky Scorpio sword faintly trembled as he panted heavily. That sword strike just now was his greatest achievement in the past year. It was called Split Second of Glory. Split Moment of Glory contained the space profound, but it wasn't perfect, nor was it great completion. It was still at 70% space profound. The higher the level of space profound, the harder it was to progress, as if it had reached a bottleneck. In the past, Yi Chen thought that the sword move created with 70% space profound couldn't surpass the sword move created with 2 great completion profounds. However, he soon realized that he was wrong. From the very beginning, he had made a mistake. Space profound was vast and profound, and no other profounds could compare to it. Without exaggerating, an ordinary profound couldn't even compare to 1/10 of it. The reason why the sword move he created couldn't keep up with his progress was because of the problem of application. Space profound was hard to comprehend, and application was even harder. The first style of heaven-shattering sword arts, bewitching mirror-shattering, and the second style, orbital slaughter, could only be considered low-level application. It was the most superficial understanding, just like how one would think of a golden mountain as an ordinary mountain. Therefore, although they were both 70% profound, Split Moment of Glory was 10 times more exquisite than the second style of heaven-shattering sword arts, orbital slaughter. The two simply weren't on the same level. As he dug deeper into the space profound, Yi Chen vaguely felt that 4 Extreme Emperor's space profound most likely hadn't reached great completion, perhaps only at 80%. Yi Chen thought that 4 Extreme Emperor's space profound had reached great completion, or else he wouldn't have been able to form the foundation of space profound. Space profound contains all kinds of energy profounds. This is an inexhaustible mountain of gold. Even if I only know space profound in this life, I will still be able to advance. Yi Chen sighed inwardly. Regarding Split Moment of Glory, Yi Chen was very satisfied. However, he also knew that it was just in its embryonic form, and its effective range was very small, only several zhong. Even so, he had already suffered a huge backlash. He could use the low-level application of Space Profound as many times as he wanted, but the backlash from Split Moment of Glory wasn't something ordinary people could endure, because the price of the backlash was the loss of their life. It was just like a mortal using the power of a god, causing a backlash. The reason why he didn't use Split Moment of Glory to deal with the Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor was precisely because of the problem of effective range. The distance between the two was too far, and the frozen space effect of Split Moment of Glory couldn't affect the Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor. The battle between the two was too fast, and there was no way for Yi Chen to successfully use Split Moment of Glory. Therefore, Yi Chen could only first use Defensive Sword like a mountain to turn from offense to defense, and prepare to use Split Moment of Glory. High-level application? Hearing Xuanho's words, the Demon Flower Emperor didn't quite understand. In terms of martial arts realm, she was countless times worse than Xianhu. Xianhu explained, time and space are both supreme profounds, and have power close to the rules. Therefore, it is very difficult to use them. Low-level application only involves the appearance, while high-level application involves the operation of the rules. Yi Chen's sword just now caused space to stand still, violating the operation of the rules. Therefore, the Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor couldn't resist at all. However, he also lost a lot of his life, which is the price of violating the rules. Involving the operation of the rules? The Demon Flower Emperor exclaimed in surprise. Time and space profound, you don't need to fully comprehend it to be able to interfere with the rules. Other ordinary profound can also interfere with the rules slightly after reaching perfection. However, under normal circumstances, many people have reached perfection in their profound, but they haven't used this profound to the limit, so they can't interfere with the rules. In other words, comprehending the profound is still just the foundation, the key lies in the application. Chapter 994. Heaven Abandoning Earth. Seeing that the Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor was heavily injured and was trying his best to resist the destructive sword qi in his body, Tian Xie couldn't help but roar and claw at Yi Chen, who was recovering his breath. This claw was not his own martial art, but heaven-abandoning claw from Qi Tiandi. The evil spirit race's martial arts research was far from the human race's. Their strength came from all kinds of unimaginable evil arts. Unfortunately, this was Elysium, where the might of evil arts was greatly reduced. Moreover, his own martial art was barely passable. Compared to heaven-abandoning claw, the difference was like heaven and earth. Heaven-abandoning earth was the third style of heaven-abandoning claw. With one claw, heaven and earth were separated. The sharp and overbearing claw energy was like the claw of a demon god, tearing at Yi Chen. Despicable. The Demon Flower Emperor swung his hand and shot out a demonic light ball, blasting at the claw energy. Puff. Outside of the claw energy, there was a layer of invisible astral chi, which could deflect any attack. Before the demonic light ball could approach, it was deflected to the side by the invisible astral chi, disintegrating in the air. However, the claw energy also slightly deviated. Just as the claw energy was about to hit Yi Chen, a mirror suddenly appeared in front of Yi Chen. The splendor of the mirror surged, and a 5-colored light beam shot at the sharp claw energy. This move was called Realm Splendor, which could gather spatial power to attack. It was Xuanho's supreme martial art. Unfortunately, the difference in power between the two was too big. If the 5-colored light beam was compared to a small stream, then the sharp claw energy was like a whirlwind. Hualala! The 5-colored light beam was torn apart, and the mirror was shattered. The claw energy, which had been blurred, still had more than half of its power. It enveloped Yi Chen's body, waiting for a single claw to crush him into a bloody mist. However, with this delay, Yi Chen had already finished adjusting his breath and calmed the Zhenyuan turbulence caused by the law backlash. With a thrust of the Sky Scorpio sword, the claw energy exploded in the air. Damn it! Tian Xie was very unwilling to lose such a rare opportunity. He punched at Yi Chen again. This punch was the second style of the heaven-abandoning claw, like seal. It looked like a fist art, but it was still a claw art. It was just that the claw energy was contained in the fist. Once it hit the enemy, the claw energy would explode with several times the power. Since he had already returned to normal, how could Yi Chen be afraid of him? The Sky Scorpio sword in his hand vibrated at a frequency invisible to the naked eye. With a swish, a sword light streaked across the sky. The moment Tian Xie's claw energy made contact with the sword light, it immediately exploded, as if a bomb was detonated prematurely. Yi Chen, you keep Tian Xie busy. I will try to see if I can seal the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor again. At this time, Xuanho's voice followed the spatial fluctuations and entered Yi Chen's ears. I'm afraid it won't be easy to seal him again. Yi Chen knitted his brows. He is heavily injured, and your sword chi is wreaking havoc in his body. If he wants to recover, he has to first get rid of the sword chi, and then absorb the evil energy in the surroundings to replenish himself. I have already arranged a formation underground. Once activated, it can trap him in the formation, consume his energy, and finally seal him. As for the success rate, 50-50. Xianhu explained. Alright. 50% chance was not small. This Yin Wind Demonic Emperor was not someone that could be killed easily. His momentary glory couldn't be used frequently either. If not for Demon Flower Emperor and Xianhu intercepting Tian Xie's attack, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Therefore, sealing the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor was the best choice, and also the only choice. Heaven and Earth Demon subduing formation. Seeing that Yi Chen had agreed, Xianhu, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, formed a seal with her hands and slammed them on the ground. Rumble. 8 rectangular stones rose up from the flat stone ground. On the surface of the stones, they were engraved with colorful runes. The 8 rectangular stones formed an 8-trigram formation, sealing the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor within. Suddenly, the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's surroundings turned chaotic. It was as if he had entered a chaotic world, and the ground beneath his feet was filled with colorful light. Don't even think about sealing me again. The Yin Wind Demonic Emperor had already expelled more than half of the sword chi in his body. Feeling the changes in the surroundings, he let out a shrill and horrifying howl. Ignoring the chaotic sword chi, he slashed out with his blade. Catcher. In the chaotic void, a blade mark appeared. The blade mark seemed to have been branded on the void, wriggling unceasingly. Heaven and Earth reversal. Xuanho's black hair fluttered in the wind. Boundless Zhenyuan flowed through her palm and poured into the ground. One could clearly feel that her life force was slowly fading away. Inside the formation, the world was spinning. That wriggling blade mark was twisted to the limit. With a puff, it disappeared like smoke, completely expelled by the power of the formation. Preposterous. You forced me to do this. Evil altar, evil power burn. The rage in the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's heart could burn the entire world. Below his feet, a huge altar suddenly appeared. On the altar, there were 4 evil devil heads. The evil devil heads opened their mouths and spat out evil flames onto his body. These evil flames didn't burn the yin-wind demonic emperor's body. Instead, they burned his sword chi. Crackle. The sword chi in the yin-wind demonic emperor's body was like snow meeting the scorching sun, rapidly disintegrating. The yin-wind demonic emperor's aura crazily expanded, constantly shaking the formation. Devour blood flower, devour for me. The demon flower emperor had already communicated with Xian Hu. She formed a seal with one hand and then blasted it on her chest. With a puff, a large amount of essence blood spurted out, sprinkling on the ground. This essence blood was the life essence of the demon flower emperor. It seemed to have a life of its own, swimming like a snake. Under the guidance of Xuanho's Jin Yuan, the essence blood merged into the formation. Whoosh! Below the yin-wind demonic emperor, a huge flower that looked like it was carved out of blood crystals flew up. Like a huge mouth of a demon, it swallowed the yin-wind demonic emperor. I swear, wait for me to come out, I will humiliate you in every possible way. The yin-wind demonic emperor's heart was filled with regret and anger. In fact, even though he had been injured by Yi Chen, he still had many means that he had not used yet. Apart from Yi Chen, he did not think that Xian Hu and the demon flower emperor could threaten him. However, he had not expected that Xian Hu had unexpectedly arranged a formation at some point and wanted to seal him once again while he was seriously injured. This made him extremely angry, but at the same time, it also gave birth to a trace of panic. He was already afraid of being sealed. Bang 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 bang. Cracks continuously appeared on the surface of the blood crystal demon flower. This was the full strength of the yin-wind demonic emperor. In the past, the blood flower of the demon flower emperor could not even block a single attack from the yin-wind demonic emperor. But now, the blood flower had merged with her life essence blood, and its power had skyrocketed. Coupled with the suppression of the formation, the yin-wind demonic emperor could not break it in a short time. Finally, the yin-wind demonic emperor broke out of the flower, but what was waiting for him was endless multicolored light. Unknowingly, the multicolored light had covered the entire space of the formation, causing the yin-wind demonic emperor to suffer a huge suppression. Open, open, open for me. The yin-wind demonic emperor seemed to have gone crazy. At this moment, the sword chi in his body had been completely cleared. Although there was only 2/3 of the evil force left, it was still extremely fierce and powerful. Holding the evil blade in his hand, he crazily slashed in a direction. The incomparably tyrannical blade light constantly split the multicolored light, trying to break the formation. Your hair. At the side, the demon flower emperor saw Xuanho's hair turning white strand by strand. She was very clear that this was because her vitality was being burned too fast. That evil altar is summoning the nearby evil forces. Quickly disperse the fog. Every word Xian Hu said was very strenuous. It was not easy to seal a character who was several times stronger than her. Don't worry. The demon flower emperor had consumed a lot of blood essence. This blood essence was refined from the essence of blood and devil power, and contained a powerful vitality. Although it was a little weak, the demon flower emperor knew that success or failure depended on this one move. As she rapidly formed hand seals, devil flowers appeared in all directions. These devil flowers tried their best to expand, and the petals opened to the limit, absorbing the crazily surging fog. Even so, there was still a lot of fog being transmitted into the formation. The evil altar under the feet of the yin-wind demonic emperor no longer spewed out evil fire, but pure evil force. When this evil force entered the body of the yin-wind demonic emperor, there was no need to refine it and it became the evil force of the yin-wind demonic emperor. Devil Claw Eclipse. Tian Xie, who was entangled by Yi Chen, saw that the yin-wind demonic emperor was trapped in the formation. He was shocked and angry at the same time. His figure flickered, turning into a yin-wind, he bypassed Yi Chen and clawed at a stone on the periphery. Go back for me. Shifting his body, Yi Chen intercepted Tian Xie and shattered his claw energy with a slash of his sword. Yi Chen, if you dare to block me again, one day, I will annihilate your entire clan. Tian Xie roared. Your words can only be used to scare a child. Today, don't even think of leaving this place. Even if you have to pay the price, I will annihilate your body and soul. The sword intent on Yi Chen's body was so dense that it was about to materialize. From the start of the battle until now, he had already let go of all restraints. He absolutely could not let his opponent leave alive. Bastard, you want to annihilate my body and soul with just you? Dream on. Evil force ignition. The evil force on Tianxie's body burned fiercely. It was different from ordinary flames. This grey flame was hot one moment and cold the next. When it was hot, it was like lava, and when it was cold, it was like the cold wind of the 9 heavens. As the evil force burned, Tianxie's battle prowess skyrocketed, but Yi Chen could see that his evil force was depleting very quickly. Devil Claw Eclipse. The terrifying claw energy burned with grey flames as it clawed at Yi Chen. Puff. After a series of collisions, Yi Chen spurted out a mouthful of blood. Tianxie's strength was not much weaker than Yin Wind Demonic Emperor. In order to stop him, he could not take half a step back, nor could he use Sword Defense Mountain. Instant glory. Forcefully suppressing his boiling blood qi and Jin Yuan, Yi Chen took a step back and immediately rushed forward with an even faster speed. The Sky Scorpio sword waved and stabbed, and a dazzling light flickered on the tip of the sword. Retreat. Tianxie still had a lingering fear of this sword. Yin Wind Demonic Emperor was so powerful, but he was still heavily injured by this sword. He did not think that he could resist it. His figure flickered, not daring to let Yi Chen approach him. Hey! Not that sword. This sword strike of Yi Chen's was merely an empty shell. It didn't have much power at all. At the same time, Tianxie's heart relaxed, but at the same time, his shame turned into anger. Yi Chen was humiliating him. Involuntarily, he stopped dodging and started gathering his claw energy. Now this is instant glory. All of a sudden, Yi Chen's figure flickered, reappearing in front of Tianxie and stabbing again. This time, a resplendent light burst out, as if an illusory star was exploding. Veins popped out on Tianxie's forehead. He wanted to retreat, but under the effect of the frozen space and all living things, he could not even move a finger or make an expression. He could only watch the dazzling sword tip stab into his forehead. Chapter 995. Boom. Tianxie's head exploded, but not a single drop of blood could be seen. All the blood was minced into nothingness by the sword qi that contained the destruction sword intent. Not only that, the sword qi that had condensed into an explosive point not only destroyed Tianxie's head, but also his body. Only his 2 legs were not affected too much. Seeing that his sword had succeeded, Yi Chen hurriedly retreated, trying to recover his life force and Jin Yuan. This was his weakest moment. With his 2 legs as the foundation, Tianxie's body grew rapidly. Unforgivable. My head. Tianxie's eyes were bloodshot as if he had gone insane. Yi Chen's sword had annihilated nearly 70% of his evil power. However, because the sword had directly exploded inside his skull, the Berserk Destruction Sword intent had invaded his Sea of Soul, causing his soul to suffer severe cuts. It should be known that the soul and the body were inseparable. If the body was intact, this bit of Destruction Sword intent wouldn't have been able to injure his muscles and bones. But now, the sword had pierced through his forehead and exploded inside his skull. The destructive power was unimaginable. Under the condition of having a splitting headache, Tianxie's mind was already a bit crazy. His body was filled with a malicious and ominous aura. Go die. Ignoring the fine sword qi that had spread from his legs to his whole body, Tianxie's body leaned forward, pouncing towards Yi Chen. His hands formed into claws, and the sharp black qi made his hands look like ghost claws. Yi Chen ignored it. A huge black sword shot out from underground, welcoming Tianxie's attack. Unknowingly, Yi Chen had already used the Iron Blood Silver Blue sword to perform the Earth Fiend sword art, absorbing enough Earth Yuan evil qi from underground. Now that he couldn't move his body, he used the Earth Fiend sword to block Tianxie. Ding, ding, ding. Sparks flew everywhere as one man and one sword fought fiercely. Yi Chen was like a statue, his aura surging. You want to seal me? That's impossible. Inside the Heaven and Earth Demon subduing formation, the Yin-Wind demonic emperor was getting stronger and stronger. Relying on the evil altar, he didn't need to worry about exhausting his evil power. Boom, boom, boom. With the power of a single person, he was able to block 80% of the dense fog, unable to advance even an inch. The Demon Flower Emperor had already exhausted all of his strength. Because he had absorbed too much evil power, the Demon Flower Emperor had nowhere to vent it. He swung his hands continuously, and magic balls of light bombarded the dense fog one after another. The violent shockwaves blew away a lot of the dense fog. Little Sister Yang's hair. The Demon Flower Emperor noticed that 1/10 of Xuanho's hair had turned white. This meant that 1/10 of her life force had already been consumed, which was 100 years. Although she had consumed a lot of blood essence and lost a lot of life force, it was only a loss of blood essence and not a direct loss of life force. She could still make up for it by spending a few decades. Could this be the backlash of the rules? The Demon Flower Emperor guessed. For the upcoming calamity of the foreign races, Xianhu had made a lot of preparations. The Heaven and Earth Demon Subduing Formation was one of the trump cards that she had prepared for the foreign races' calamity. As a trump card, the Heaven and Earth Demon Subduing Formation was not an ordinary formation, but a sealing formation. Once it was used to the extreme, it would begin to interfere with the operation of the rules. Therefore, it would inevitably suffer the backlash of the rules. Originally, although the Yin-Wind demonic emperor was powerful, he wouldn't have failed after paying such a huge price. She didn't expect that the evil altar could actually absorb the evil power from the outside world through the Heaven and Earth Demon Subduing Formation and transform it into its own evil power. In this way, as long as the evil power was not exhausted, the Heaven and Earth Demon Subduing Formation would not be able to use its full power. I'm afraid I don't even have a 20% chance of success. Xianhu was now riding a tiger and it was hard to get off, but she wasn't too surprised. Before this, she only had a 50% chance of success. After all, this was the first time she used the Heaven and Earth Demon Subduing Formation. Ha ha ha, the sealing formation will only make me stronger and stronger. In the colorful flowing light, the blade light crisscrossed, and the Yin-Wind demonic emperor laughed wildly. As he continued to swing the blade, he could feel that he and the true water emperor's body were becoming more and more compatible, and there was a trend of spirit and body becoming one. Previously, when he swung the blade, at least 30% of the power was lost, but now he could exert 80%. When he swung the blade, the sharp blade light could almost cut the sky and split the earth. Of course, with his current strength, there was still no way to get out of the trap, but he believed that when his strength improved step by step, tearing the formation was only a matter of time. The Earth Origin Evil Chi on the Earth Fiend Giant Sword was getting thinner and thinner. At the beginning, he could still fight with Tian Xie, but later, every time they exchanged blows, he would be sent flying, and the sword would cry. After calming down the boiling true essence, the silver vertical eye between Yi Chen's eyebrows opened, and suddenly a silver beam of light shot out. Tian Xie screamed, and blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. Before his soul was injured, he was not afraid of this soul attack, but now it was undoubtedly one disaster after another. Primordial Spirit Lock Kill. With a spurt of energy, Yi Chen continued to use the Primordial Spirit Lock Kill that he learned from Yuan Emperor. A blurry golden light flickered, and a sharp golden halo instantly sank into Tian Xie's eyebrows. In Tian Xie's soul sea, a boundless huge golden halo wrapped around it, and was fiercely cutting it. The pain coming from the depths of his soul made Tian Xie howl uncontrollably. Evil Spirit Guard. Tian Xie hurriedly used a soul defense secret art. Boom. Within his soul sea, waves surged as a gigantic nefarious devil appeared. This nefarious devil was condensed from soul power. With a push of its hands, it grabbed onto one side of the golden light ring. Then, its body enlarged, and so did its arms, causing the golden light ring to expand, preventing it from cutting into his soul sea. It's over. As Tian Xie used the soul defense secret art, Yi Chen held the Sky Scorpio sword with both of his hands, and slashed vertically. A dark green sword light flashed on Tian Xie's body. Crackle. Like a dead tree in winter being struck by lightning, Tian Xie's body suddenly ignited, and the raging dark green flame reached dozens of meters high. Some evil qi that wanted to escape were licked by the flame, and turned into ashes, disappearing without a trace. This was the destructive flame formed by the fusion of water and fire. Just a trace of it was enough to destroy a mountain. Being licked by the flame, people like the yellow-robed old monster would probably die immediately, not to mention the remaining evil qi. "I'm not willing." Tian Xie let out a miserable shriek, but his voice came to an abrupt stop. At this point, a giant of evil spirit clan was completely killed by Yi Chen. It could be said that he was wronged, but not wronged. In Elysium, his realm was suppressed. Originally, he was at the 6th layer of life and death realm, but here, he could only display the strength of the 4th layer. Moreover, he wasn't completely familiar with Nirvana Demon Emperor's body, so he could only display 70 to 80% of his strength. In fact, he wasn't wronged because Yi Chen's destruction sword intent specialized in restraining evil spirit clan. Since ancient times, there had been a few unparalleled characters who comprehended the destruction sword intent or destruction will. In that era, the number of sealed alien race experts were few, and they were all exterminated. However, destruction will was not so easy to comprehend. Sometimes, it depended on luck. No matter how talented one was, if one wasn't suitable for destruction will, one would most likely fail to comprehend it. This had nothing to do with strength. On the other side, Xianhu was still trying her best to suppress Yin Wind Demonic Emperor. The white hair on her head was slowly growing from 1/10 to 1/5, consuming an astonishing amount of vitality. "Senior Yang, what's going on?" Before, Yi Chen had already sensed the change in the situation, but he didn't have the time to ask. Mysterious Queen's complexion paled as she said, "The Yin Wind Demonic Emperor summoned an evil sacrificial altar that can absorb the evil energy from the outside world to replenish himself. Your sword qi has also been burned to ashes by the evil flames he spewed out from the altar. Right now, his strength is constantly increasing and has already surpassed the time when he fought with you. I think this array can be used by 8 people at the same time. You and I can deal with him together. With Yuan Emperor as his backing, even if Yi Chen couldn't comprehend the Cosmos Demon subduing array for the time being, he should be able to cooperate with Xianhu. No, if it was before, you could temporarily join in. But now, there are too many changes in the Cosmos Demon subduing array. If you rashly join in, it will only reveal a flaw, giving the enemy a chance to take advantage of it. The only thing we can do now is to disperse the surrounding fog, preventing him from absorbing the evil power. At that time, we should be able to seal him by paying a small price. The Demon Flower Emperor could only block 80% of the fog. The remaining 20% was more than enough for the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor. As long as Yi Chen blocked this 20% of the fog, the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's evil power would decrease with each use, becoming weaker and weaker. Of course, she would probably consume 2/3 of her lifespan. Looking at the fog, Yi Chen said, "I have a method, but I've never used it before. Let's give it a try." The Cosmos Demon subduing array was a huge burden to Xianhu. When Yi Chen saw more and more white hairs on her head, he felt a stabbing pain in his heart. Using Instant of Glory might seem to consume a lot of vitality, but it wasn't much. Each time he used it, it was about 10 to 20 years of lifespan. After all, Instant of Glory only caused space to freeze for a moment. Using it twice in a row, Yi Chen consumed less than 40 years of lifespan. Compared to his 1,000 years of lifespan, it wasn't worth mentioning. However, Xianhu had already consumed more than 100 years of lifespan. The price she paid was the greatest. If she really wanted to suppress the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor alone, it would be impossible without paying 600 to 700 years of lifespan. Martial Dao Yuan Spirit, appear. With a solemn expression, Yi Chen's spirit, qi, and spirit were highly concentrated. His eyes stared at the space between his eyebrows. Buzz. In the next moment, a figure emitting a faint white radiance walked out of Yi Chen's body. This figure looked exactly the same as Yi Chen. Even the aura was the same. However, its entire body was blossoming with a layer of immortal holy light, making it seem like a man of light. Apart from this man of light had a sharp aura, as if a peerless sword had been unsheathed. If Yi Chen's body was the scabbard, Then this man of light was the sword. Martial Dao Yuan spirit. Xianhu and Demon Flower Emperor couldn't help but look over. Martial Dao Yuan spirit was the combination of will and Jin Yuan. At life and death realm, everyone had one. However, it was usually very weak, and couldn't leave the body. Under normal circumstances, at Yi Chen's level, it was impossible for the martial Dao Yuan spirit to leave the body. Once it did, the martial Dao Yuan spirit would be equivalent to another Yi Chen, with no difference in strength. Chapter 996. Once the martial Dao Yuan Shen appeared, Yi Chen's body was like a statue, motionless. Apart from the fluctuations of life, there was no aura to speak of, as if all the essence had been taken away by the martial Dao Yuan Shen. And the martial Dao Yuan Shen, which was the glowing Yi Chen, flashed, actually passed through the outer wall of the array, and directly entered the chaotic universe devil subduing array. The multicolored light could not obstruct the glowing Yi Chen, and soon, the Yin-Wind demonic emperor, who was stepping on the evil altar, entered his sight. Without any nonsense, Yi Chen stretched out his right hand, and a glowing sword took shape, piercing towards the Yin-Wind demonic emperor. The sword tip burst with light, incomparably dazzling. Momentary glory. No. The Yin-Wind demonic emperor's eyes widened. How could he not see that this was Yi Chen's martial Dao Yuan Shen? The martial Dao Yuan Shen had the attribute of surpassing space, between substance and nothingness, but the power it burst out was absolutely the limit of the body, without a trace of illusion. Moreover, the martial Dao Yuan Shen had one more advantage than the body, and that was, it was not limited by the body, and could display the martial arts mastered to an extremely perfect level. The multicolored light came to a standstill, and the Yin-Wind demonic emperor's expression froze. The sword, which carried Yi Chen's will, slowly and firmly pierced into the opponent's forehead. Boom! A blazing white light burst out, and countless sword qi intertwined. The Yin-Wind demonic emperor's body suddenly disappeared by a third. He was much stronger than Tian Xie, so it was impossible for Yi Chen's sword to annihilate the majority of his evil force. Even so, the sword piercing into the forehead and the sword qi were incomparable. His soul si was affected, and the sword qi wreaked havoc. His flesh and blood squirmed, and the Yin-Wind demonic emperor once again condensed into a human body. However, what awaited him was another momentary glory. The martial Dao Yuan spirit's momentary brilliance was all born by the main body, so it could be used consecutively. In the outside world, Yi Chen was bleeding from his 7 orifices, and his face was much paler. The first momentary brilliance annihilated 1/3 of the Yin-Wind demonic emperor's evil power, and the second momentary brilliance annihilated a full 50% of the Yin-Wind demonic emperor's evil power. This was not because the second momentary brilliance was more powerful, but because after receiving the first momentary brilliance, the Yin-Wind demonic emperor was already in a weakened state, and when receiving the second sword strike in a weakened state, the damage was naturally greater than the first. Bastard, go to hell. The more desperate the situation, the more it stimulated the Yin-Wind demonic emperor's ferocious and evil nature. The space between his eyebrows was glowing, as if there was a grey sun there. Buzz. A Yin-Wind demonic emperor emitting a grey light walked out of his body. This was the Yin-Wind demonic emperor's evil Dao Yuan spirit. As a 7th-layer life and death demonic emperor, although his realm was suppressed by 2 layers and he had just escaped from the blood-colored seal, it didn't hinder his Yuan spirit from leaving his body for the final battle. The third momentary brilliance was unleashed, and Yi Chen's martial Dao Yuan spirit became much more illusory. However, this time, the Yin-Wind demonic emperor's evil Dao Yuan spirit didn't suffer too much of a restriction, and its blade slashed out. Blazing sparks burst forth, multicolored streamers surged up like waves, and the aftermath bombarded the main body of the Yin-Wind demonic emperor on the evil sacrificial altar. However, that evil sacrificial altar was not an ordinary treasure. The 4 evil devil heads spurted out extremely pure evil power, which formed a protective shield and barely protected its main body. The reason why the Yin-Wind demonic emperor didn't let his evil Dao Yuan spirit attack before was mainly because his main body was too weak. Once the evil Dao Yuan spirit left his main body would lose all ability to protect itself. Once his main body died, his evil Dao Yuan spirit would instantly dissipate. Therefore, he didn't dare to take risks, and would rather fight steadily. Yin Wind 6 Arts, 5th Form, Berserk Evil splits the heavens. Without the restriction of his physical body, the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's saber arts were much more refined. A domineering saber light tore through the multicolored light. Along the way, it rapidly split apart. Over 100 smaller saber lights crazily shot at Yi Chen. The fourth momentary brilliance was unleashed, and all the saber lights were frozen in place. Unless the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's evil Dao Yuan spirit fought him in close combat, it would be impossible for it to break through his defenses. The Yin Wind Demonic Emperor was just about to charge forward when he suddenly let out a cry. Looking back, he saw that his main body, which was protected by the evil energy, was covered in blood. Occasionally, sword chi would break through his body. Yi Chen's two momentary brilliance had not only destroyed the majority of the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's evil energy, but it had also left behind a large amount of sword chi in his body. Once his evil Dao Yuan spirit had appeared, the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's main body had essentially lost its backbone. How could he possibly suppress the sword chi in his body? The Yin Wind Demonic Emperor's evil Dao Yuan spirit transformed into a ray of light that returned to his main body. It should be about time. Yi Chen's body was quite transparent, as if it was condensed from a ball of light. Turning around, Yi Chen passed through the outer wall of the array and turned into a ray of light that returned to his main body. Puff! Spurting out a mouthful of blood, Yi Chen struggled to say, he only has a little more than 10% of his evil energy left, and there is double the sword chi left in his body. I can fully suppress the seal now. As he spoke, Yi Chen spurted out another 3 mouthfuls of blood. Using the momentary brilliance 4 times in a row had almost reached the limit of his main body's endurance. If he used it again, he couldn't guarantee that there would be any side effects. For a moment, he felt the world spinning around him. He hurriedly sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes to adjust his breathing. Nothing inside the heaven and earth demon subduing array could hide from Xuanho's senses. As soon as Yi Chen's martial Dao Yuan spirit came out, she activated the array with all her strength. In an instant, the array's interior space underwent dozens of changes, and each change would cause the evil altar's protective barrier to slightly distort. Pop! The protective barrier twisted to the limit and burst like a bubble. The Yin Wind Demonic Emperor only had time to swing his blade once before he was completely submerged by the multicolored light. I will break free again. His voice became smaller and smaller until it was almost inaudible. Rumble. In the outside world, the chaotic heaven and earth demon subduing array slowly sank into the ground. At the same time, the surrounding 8 stones engraved with runes also sank. When the ground became flat again, a circle of multicolored runes lit up. Following that, the light became dimmer and dimmer, turning into a multicolored metal-like brand. Did I succeed? The Demon Flower Emperor stopped absorbing the evil energy, his fragrant sweat dripping down. Being sealed again, even if the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor breaks free, his strength will be weakened to a new low. However, a Demonic Emperor-level character is indeed powerful. If I didn't use the Heaven and Earth Demon subduing array to trap him, it would be impossible to kill him. He could have easily escaped. Xianhu could tell that using Instant of Glory 4 times was already Yi Chen's limit. If he forcefully used it for the 5th time, his martial Yuan spirit, which was not yet condensed, might suffer irreparable damage, causing him to lose his memory or even lose his mind. As she spoke, Xuanho's white hair turned black at a visible speed. At life and death realm, one's appearance would change very slowly. It would not be an exaggeration to say that decades were like one day. The reason why one's hair turned white was because one's vitality was being drained too quickly. When one's vitality stopped draining, everything would return to its original state. Of course, this was under the condition that one's vitality wasn't consumed too much. Once one lost more than 4/5 of their vitality, their hair turning white would be irreversible. In any case, our mission this time is basically a success. The Demon Flower Emperor smiled. En. Xianhu nodded and looked at Yi Chen, who was meditating with his eyes closed. After a cup of tea's worth of time, Yi Chen slowly opened his eyes and faintly smiled. Seniors, you've worked hard. Are you all right? The Demon Flower Emperor asked. Apart from some minor after-effects, I'm fine. At this level, it was impossible for the Yuanshan of martial arts to leave the body without any side effects. He could clearly feel that his level of swordsmanship had dropped. The swordless heart required instincts, and the key to instincts was to unify the spirit and body. After the Yuanshan of martial arts returned, he felt a little strange about his own body, as if he had been possessed. Of course, it was just a metaphor, and it was not that serious. He should be able to recover after some time. Xianhu sighed. I didn't expect you to be able to let your Yuan spirit leave your body. This is an ability that can only be obtained when one's martial will reaches the 8th step realm. When Yuan spirit left the body, the most important thing was the martial will. The higher the martial will, the more powerful the Yuan spirit would be. This kind of power was not in terms of strength, but rather the condensation of the Yuan spirit. Yeah, how did you do it? The Demon Flower Emperor was a bit curious. Yi Chen honestly said, I cultivate a Yuan spirit secret art that can strengthen the Yuan spirit in advance. Yuan spirit secret arts didn't only include soul secret arts, but also things that could temper the will and soul. To be honest, Yuan spirit didn't have much effect on a person's strength. It could be said that it didn't have much of an effect on a person's strength. Yuan spirit only had two uses. One was to ignore most barriers and travel freely. The second was that after the body died, the Yuan spirit wouldn't dissipate for a short period of time. At that time, it could heavily injure the enemy or even kill the enemy at the crucial moment. But after that, it would still die. The Yuan spirit of martial Dao could not survive without the body. The body was the weakness of the Yuan spirit of martial Dao. Therefore, when two sides were fighting, using the Yuan spirit of martial Dao to fight the enemy was a suicidal action. The enemy could completely destroy your body, leaving you with nowhere to go. You would be like a soul without a body, homeless. Therefore, Yuan spirit could only be used to deal with some unexpected situations. For example, the situation where one couldn't enter with their body and could only enter with their Yuan spirit. But even so, Yuan spirit still had some auxiliary functions. The more condensed the Yuan spirit was, the stronger the control over one's body would be, and the more exquisite the martial arts would be. So that's how it is. The Demon Flower Emperor faintly nodded. We can't stay here for long. Let's return to True Spirit Continent first. Xianhu suggested. All right, let's go. The three had some internal injuries, and their condition wasn't 80% of their peak. If they encountered a powerful enemy, it would be extremely dangerous. Leaving the True Water Palace, the three headed toward True Spirit Continent. Chapter 997. Just when Yi Chen's group of three sealed the Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor once again, in the depths of the void, in a certain dilapidated plane space, an extremely formidable mana fluctuation spread out. This mana fluctuation was cold and overbearing. Anyone who was affected by it couldn't help but shiver. They felt cold from the inside out, as if something unclean had entered their body. What a formidable curse power! Although Lord Curse is not in his peak state, he isn't as weak as we imagined. The woman with a pair of bat wings on her back said. The tall, dark-skinned man said, when we arrived, the seal had already been greatly eroded by Lord Curse's curse power. Even if we didn't appear, Lord Curse would still be able to break the seal within 3 to 5 years and escape. Lord Curse is coming out. The one who spoke was the man with a long horn on his head. He had once joined hands with the Netherworld Demon King to hunt down Yi Chen. Hearing this, the few people looked towards the center of the mana fluctuation. In the center of the mana fluctuation, a person slowly rose. This person had withered yellow hair, an extremely ugly face, and a very deformed figure. There were also very ugly people in the human race, but compared to this strange person, they undoubtedly paled in comparison. This person was ugly and ominous. Just a glance at him would make one's hair stand on end and make one unable to sleep at night. In other words, this person was not only ugly, but also the temperament he emitted was even uglier. The woman with bat wings said, Rumor has it that Lord Curse is a famous handsome man among us demons. However, during one of his expeditions, he obtained a cursed demon sword. From then on, not only did his mana change into curse power, but he also seemed to be cursed. The stronger he is, the uglier his appearance. Although Lord Curse's escape is a good thing for us, you should be careful. Because Lord Curse's appearance changed greatly, many of his confidants left him. In a fit of anger, he humiliated them in every possible way and tortured them to death. From then on, he even took pleasure in humiliating beauties. Later, because he accidentally killed the granddaughter of Lord Demon Emperor, although that Demon Emperor was in the same realm as him, he was several times stronger than him. Lord Demon Emperor chased after him, and as a last resort, he was forced to come to Elysium. The dark-skinned tall man reminded the woman. He was the leader of the group, called Blackstone. I know. After saying that, the woman's appearance changed and turned into an ordinary woman. So you practice the muscle-changing transformation technique, I feel relieved. Blackstone nodded. Haha, I, cursed Demon Emperor, have finally escaped. You guys, did you bring me any beauties? With a swoosh, the figure of the ugly man appeared in front of the three of them like a phantom. A fishy smell assaulted their nostrils, mixed with terrifying illusions. The three of them were shocked and hurriedly bowed. Blackstone said, "Welcome back, Lord Curse. Don't worry, Lord Curse, we have already prepared a human queen for you in the palace. I guarantee that you will be satisfied." Good, you guys are really considerate. Hearing this, the cursed Demon Emperor's eyes flashed with a cruel light of lust. Lord Curse, we shouldn't stay here for long. Let's go back to the palace first, Blackstone suggested. No rush. The cursed Demon Emperor waved his hand. Let me summon my cursed demon sword back first. Cursed demon sword. The three of them felt their hearts go numb. The cursed demon sword was a demon sword with a curse. Although it was powerful, it was too evil. The cursed Demon Emperor had become like this because of the cursed demon sword. Both of his hands quickly formed a seal. The cursed Demon Emperor spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. A mournful and eerie howl sounded. A grey skull wrapped in blood streaked across the air and disappeared. Chu family of Windy Nation, Pan Shan Island. Rumble. The entire Pan Shan Island shook violently. Huge cracks appeared on the island. From the cracks, endless horrifying aura gushed out. Some of the Chu family members were just slightly touched by the aura. Their appearances immediately changed, becoming extremely ugly. Their eyes shone with a strange and violent blood-red light as they pounced on their own clansmen. For a moment, the Chu family's blood flowed like a river. What kind of sin did our Chu family commit? The Chu family elders cried as they watched their clansmen die one by one. Family leader, be careful. Seeing the countless ugly clansmen with strange aura pouncing over, a young figure stood in front of the Chu family leader. It was Chu Ming. Swoosh, swoosh. Those incoming clansmen were blown away by the finger power one by one. They fell on the ground one by one, unable to get up. However, they did not die. Back when Yi Chen was still a disciple of the Sky Cloud Martial School, Chu Ming was a disciple of the Emerald Martial School. The two had accepted the same mission and fought side by side. Although Chu Ming was far from Yi Chen's level, he was still a normal genius. After so many years, he had already cultivated to the early sea of Soul's realm. Bang! All of a sudden, a huge grey-black demon sword broke out of the mountain. After circling once in the air, it shot into the depths of the void. Because of its extreme speed, no one could detect it. Haha, I'm back. The cursed Demon Emperor waved his hand, and a grey-black demon sword with a horrifying aura appeared in his hand. This demon sword was wrapped in a layer of turbid chi. Vaguely, countless screams could be heard coming from within the turbid chi. Blackstone and the other two glanced at it, and they immediately started sweating profusely. Their minds were in chaos. Worthy of being the cursed demon sword. There is no damage at all. The cursed Demon Emperor knew very well that the cursed demon sword had been in his hands when he had been sealed. However, the cursed demon sword had somehow broken through the seal. If not for the fact that his mind was connected to the cursed demon sword, it would have taken him a lot of effort to find it. Lord Fear, congratulations on your return. On the 5th day after Blackstone and the other two unsealed the cursed demon emperor, Nine Nether and a few other demons also unsealed the Lord of Fear, whose strength was not inferior to the cursed demon emperor's. If the title of the cursed demon emperor came from the cursed demon sword, then the title of the Lord of Fear came from his terrifying and cruel style. Before coming to Elysium, the Lord of Fear had a planet. It was said that his palace on that planet was built entirely from the bones and flesh of his enemies. He drank fresh blood and ate raw flesh every day. He liked to cook the internal organs of his enemies. Almost none of his enemies had a good ending. Just like the cursed demon emperor, the Lord of Fear had also been sent to Elysium because he had offended a high-level demons. I want to eat people. Arrange it for me. The image of the Lord of Fear was still considered normal, but his eyes clearly had the luster of a ferocious beast. Nine Nether laughed bitterly in his heart. Others said that he was a crazy person, but compared to the Lord of Fear, he was just a mischievous troublemaker occasionally. This was the first time he had seen the Lord of Fear in person. The terrifying aura of the Lord of Fear that regarded any flesh and blood as food brought him great pressure. He could not guarantee that if he rejected the Lord of Fear would eat him alive. I have prepared a demon king and a human king. They are just waiting for Lord Fear to enjoy them. Nine Nether said respectfully. Well done. I was planning to eat you to restore my vitality. The Lord of Fear nodded calmly, but what he said made Nine Nether's hair stand on end. Fallout Sword Sect. Lingyun Peak. Xianhu and Yi Chen stood side by side, watching the surging clouds. 2 years have passed in the blink of an eye. In these 2 years, more than 50 people have become life and death kings. This can be considered a happy occasion. At this moment, Xuanho's aura was much more powerful than when she fought the Yin-Wind demonic emperor 2 years ago. Purely in terms of cultivation base, she had already reached the level of 2,000 years. However, if someone were to know that her cultivation base was at the peak of the first layer of life and death realm, they would be dumbfounded. Under ordinary circumstances, only one person could cultivate to the first layer of life and death realm in Elysium. And in this era, including Yi Chen, there were 2. The reason why Xianhu could obtain the true cultivation method of life and death realm was not because of Yi Chen, but because of the titled King Palace's Palace Spirit's approval. Only by obtaining the Palace Spirit's approval could one have a high chance of successfully breaking through. Those who couldn't obtain its approval would most likely turn into ashes and cease to exist. After all, the Palace Spirit's insight was not something ordinary people could compare to. But this means that the great calamity of the foreign races will erupt at any time, right? Yi Chen nodded as the mountain breeze fluttered his long hair. In these 2 years, the majority of the peak geniuses who had competed with him had entered life and death realm. Among the 50 people, the majority were from the younger generation, such as Du Guju, Dan Tai Mingyu, Luo Tianju, Chu Zhongtian, Yang Fengfeng, Jiang Tian, Xia Hozuan, Bai Wuxue, Xiao Chuhe, and Lu Xiaoyu. As for the peak geniuses of Bloodsky Continent and Skysword Continent, as long as they were continent-level geniuses, they had all entered life and death realm. Those geniuses who had competed with Yi Chen earlier, such as Edict Prince Li Xiaoyun and Jing Aoshuan, had also entered the first layer, second layer, or third layer of life and death chamber, only a step away from life and death realm. 2 years ago, apart from Yi Chen, only Marquis Swordstar, Marquis Sword Snow, and Murong Qingcheng had entered life and death realm. Among these geniuses, some were still insignificant, merely equivalent to ordinary mid- and high-step kings. Only a few had the strength of peak kings. However, there were also some fierce geniuses. Among them, Marquis Sword Snow, Du Guju, Dan Tai Mingyu, Chu Zhongtian, and a few others were undoubtedly the representatives. Marquis Sword Snow was needless to say. Under life and death realm, apart from Xu Jing, only this person could pose a slight threat to Yi Chen. In Du Guju's case, he was a genius who grew stronger by meeting strong opponents. In the beginning, he wasn't particularly eye-catching in Elysium, but each time, he would make great progress. His potential was limitless. Among so many geniuses, apart from Yi Chen, Dantai Mingyu was the only one proficient in Space Profound. She was low-key, but her strength was formidable. Chu Zhongtian, on the other hand, had completely relied on his talent. His evil spirit body had brought him too many benefits. Without any exaggeration, after entering the life and death realm, his evil Yuan's might was much more powerful than mysterious queens, who had reached the peak of the first sky of life and death realm. Even Yi Chen, who had already reached the peak of the second sky of life and death realm, could not guarantee that his Jin Yuan's purity could rival Chu Zhongtian's. Chapter 998. Of course, compared to these four, Murong Qingcheng and Xu Jing were not the slightest bit inferior. In fact, Xu Jing was even above them. This was not a blind guess of Yi Chen's. From Demon Flower Emperor, Yi Chen learned that Murong Qingcheng's strength had already reached the level of titled monarchs of Elysium. Moreover, she was not an ordinary titled monarch. The reason why her strength had advanced so rapidly was because Murong Qingcheng had inherited an extremely noble bloodline of demons. This bloodline was called the Dark Demoness bloodline. However, this bloodline was too powerful, so powerful that it could corrode one's soul and mind. After all, Murong Qingcheng was not a pure demons, but a demonic human. Therefore, she had been trying her best to tame the Dark Demoness bloodline and strengthen herself in the process, preparing for the great calamity of the foreign races. As for Xu Jing, her strength could be guessed even with her toes. It should be known that in Elysium, she was the only one with a complete dragon bloodline. As for how powerful a dragon was, it was impossible to guess. One could only know that it was a demonic beast that stood above all other beasts. Their aptitudes had reached the supreme grade, and they did not need to cultivate bitterly. After reaching adulthood, they could become demonic kings. As for how powerful a demonic king-level dragon was, one could only know after seeing it with their own eyes. In any case, the more powerful experts appeared in Elysium, the happier Yi Chen would be. Yi Chen was not sure about the others, but he was sure that these six were the main force. In order to make them stronger, Yi Chen had even given the Jin Yuan crystals produced by the Devouring Island to Marquis Sword Snow, Du Ju, Dantai Mingyu, and Chu Zhongtian. After all, he had already reached the peak of the second layer of life and death realm, and did not need Jin Yuan crystals to increase his cultivation base. Murong Qingcheng cultivated demonic power, and Xu Jing cultivated dragon power. Neither did she need Jin Yuan crystals. The four did not refuse. This was not the time to be soft-hearted. Increasing their strength was the most important thing. We're increasing our strength, and so are those foreign races. What worries me the most is the Yin Wind Demonic Emperor. A trace of worry appeared on Xuanho's face. Yin Wind Demonic Emperor was a 7th-layer Demonic Emperor-level character. Even if he were to be suppressed by 2 layers in Elysium, he would still be at the 5th layer. Such characters would be extremely frightening if they were allowed to recover from their weakened state. It should be known that the 5th layer corresponded to 7-star strength. In this era, Elysium did not have 7-star strength. Even Yi Chen. In a few short years, they won't be able to recover to their peak. But, it is indeed worrying. Yi Chen let out a light breath. His strength had already reached a limit, and he could not increase it any further. In terms of cultivation base, he was at the peak of the 2nd layer. If he continued to increase it, he might explode and perish. Therefore, he could not be anxious. In terms of sword will, his destruction sword intent and immortal sword intent had both reached the peak of the 6th step due to their resonance, only a step away from the 7th step. However, the higher one's sword will went, the harder it would be to increase it. Not to mention, it was an attribute sword intent, which might take dozens of years to reach. As for sword domain, Yi Chen had already reached the peak of the 3rd layer because he had been to the sword world many times. Later on, no matter how hard he tried, he could not increase it by even half a step. Fortunately, it was not a waste of time. Thousands of sword arts had appeared in his mind. Although he could not comprehend them all, they would become Yi Chen's foundation. In terms of sword arts, momentary brilliance was the strongest. No matter how he improved the other sword arts, they could not surpass it. Therefore, his strength nearing 7-star had already been calculated. Before going to the titled King Palace, Yi Chen had the battle strength of a 5-star tyrant, and his life and death realm had reached the peak of the first layer. Combined with momentary brilliance, he had the battle strength of a mid-6-star tyrant. The peak of the second layer and the peak of the third layer of sword domain barely gave Yi Chen the battle strength of a 6-star tyrant. As for spirit body, Yi Chen's spirit body had also reached the late 5th step. In Bloodlight Ocean, Yi Chen had found a blood crystal flower and killed 2 blood demon emperors, obtaining their blood demon crystals. His spirit body had advanced from the early 5th step to the late 5th step, and his physical body's defense had reached a whole new level. Unfortunately, the strength of the spirit body had nothing to do with strength, it only had endurance. Let's not talk about this. When it's time, it will come. How is the forging of your sword? Xianhu shook her head and changed the topic. Speaking of the sword, Yi Chen's face revealed a trace of rarely seen excitement. If nothing unexpected happens, it will be completed in half a month. The sword the two were talking about was neither a semi-extreme grade sword nor a pseudo-extreme grade sword, but a genuine extreme grade sword. Although he didn't know the final grade of the sword, Yi Chen estimated that it would be at least at the peak of mid-supreme grade. As for the Sky Scorpio sword, before its crystal power was exhausted, it was merely mid-supreme grade. In order to forge an extreme grade sword, Yi Chen had failed 19 times in total, using up hundreds of extreme grade materials. If he hadn't been collecting extreme grade materials in the recent years and inherited a batch of them from Fire Emperor, as well as some gifted to him by Xianhu, Demon Flower Emperor, and Spirit Pilking, he wouldn't have had so many extreme grade materials to consume. The difficulty of forging an extreme grade sword was no less than breaking through to life and death realm. Fortunately, although he had failed 19 times, apart from 10 sword embryos exploding, the other 9 times had produced defective swords, which were pseudo-extreme grade swords. Of the 9 pseudo-extreme grade swords, Yi Chen kept 3 for himself and gave the other 6 to Xianhu, Demon Flower Emperor, and Spirit Pilking as compensation. After forging the 20th extreme grade sword, Yi Chen's sword forging arts had reached a comprehensive level. Originally, he would have been satisfied with forging an ordinary extreme grade sword. The Sky Scorpio sword could be used for the defensive sword art, while this sword could be used for battle. However, he didn't expect that the incomplete extreme grade sword would release such a powerful might, surpassing the low-grade extreme grade. Therefore, Yi Chen wasn't in a hurry to complete it. Instead, he placed it at the center of the 99 Origin Return Great Array, allowing it to absorb a large amount of spiritual qi and refine the sword's body. At the same time, he drew in the essence of the Earth Fiend True Fire to refine the fine impurities within. In the blink of an eye, several days had passed. Behind the Spirit Cloud Peak was a fiery red mountain peak that was releasing boundless heat. This was the place Yi Chen used to forge swords, and was called the Sword Forging Peak. In the depths of the Sword Forging Peak, he had arranged an Earth Fiend True Fire Great Array. This Great Array could absorb the Earth Fiend True Fire in the depths of the ground and use the power of the array to remove the false and retain the true, condensing the Earth Fiend True Fire essence. The temperature of this Earth Fiend True Fire essence was extremely shocking. Ordinary metal materials would be turned into ashes in less than a breath's time. Only extreme grade materials could endure it, but they would also melt very quickly. At this moment, in the underground cave of the Sword Forging Peak, a sword that was about to take shape was dancing up and down. Its sharp sword chi could cut through everything in this world. Once this sword is born, my power will increase by quite a bit. I'll use it to kill all the alien race warriors invading Elysium. On the side, Yi Chen's eyes were cold and serious. The sword was used to kill people. The more people it killed, the stronger the killing intent would be, and the sharper the sword would be. Every strand of chi would have the power to cut souls. Using this sword to kill alien race warriors was undoubtedly the best way to sacrifice it. Walking out of the Sword Forging Peak, Yi Chen arrived at the Spirit Cloud Peak. On the peak, there were 6 youngsters training their sword skills. They were Yi Xian, Yi Xiaoxiao, and Yi Chen's 4 disciples. In the blink of an eye, a couple of years had passed. Some of them were already 20 years old, and some were nearing that age. Their growth was astonishing, especially the fourth disciple, Leng Xinghan. He was the strongest among the six. Although he was only at the mid-astral reaching realm, his power was enough to compete with some famous Sea of Souls realm warriors. Master, big brother. Seeing Yi Chen's arrival, everyone stopped their sparring. Faintly nodding, Yi Chen said, I'm very satisfied with your progress. Unfortunately, I didn't give you much time. If you had a few more years, you might have reached the Sea of Souls realm. The great calamity of the foreign races would not only be a battle between life and death realm warriors, but also between Sea of Souls realm warriors. For example, in the parallel space battlefield where the Demon King was sealed, apart from the skeletons of life and death realm warriors, there were also Sea of Souls realm warriors and even astral reaching realm warriors. The alien race disaster was not only a disaster for the warriors of Elysium, but it was also a very dangerous opportunity. Once they got through it, they would definitely have a huge improvement. They might even be able to break through their limits and reach a realm that they had never been able to reach before. However, the condition was that they had to survive. Therefore, Yi Chen did not plan to let his top 4 disciples and siblings hide in the falling dust sword school and survive with the great protective spell. When it was necessary, they would have to join the battle and fight against the astral reaching realm warriors of the alien races. But, he also knew that although astral reaching realm warriors were not as powerful as life and death realm warriors, astral reaching realm warriors were actually the most dangerous ones. Whether it was the alien races or the Elysium, there were way too many astral reaching realm warriors. They were just like small soldiers, and in battles, the ones who would die the most would be the small soldiers. He was a bit worried. Don't worry, Master. I, Leng Xinghan, am not someone who will just live without purpose. I will live and die with the falling dust sword school. The alien races have invaded our Elysium, and they will pay with blood. Leng Xinghan's eyes were filled with killing intent. Dongfang Bai, who was usually the most gentle, also said with a serious tone, Master, you have always taught me that sword arts are for killing, not for show. This time, I, Dongfang Bai, will let go of everything and fight against the alien races. Big brother. The 6 of them were fearless, filled with passion. Yi Chen chuckled and shook his head. Not being afraid of death is a good thing, but I do not recommend fighting to the death without retreating. When it is time to retreat, you should retreat. Only by staying alive can you kill more alien races. Plus, this great disaster will be decided by the battles between us life and death realm warriors. I will teach you your sword formation combination attack method. You guys are almost done practicing it, so use it at the critical moment. Don't attract too much attention. No one would want their disciples and siblings to die on the battlefield, and Yi Chen did not want that either. While training them, he would try to give them a chance to survive. Days passed by, and the time for the appearance of the extreme rank greatsword was getting closer and closer. Meanwhile, the whole of Elysium was getting quieter and quieter. It was the last calm before the storm. Chapter 999. Near the dead end, on a planet that had been stained with the blood of the Dragon King, there were many figures. Cursed Demon Emperor, Lord of Fear, I, the Troll Emperor, will be the commander this time. Do you have any objections? The figures were divided into 2 camps. The larger camp was the demons. At this moment, among the 3 leading demons, there was the Cursed Demon Emperor and the Lord of Fear. As for the one who spoke, it was a majestic middle-aged man with a height of 5 meters, arms and legs as thick as his eyes fell on the Cursed Demon Emperor and the Lord of Fear. You can be the commander, but don't even think about ordering me. The Cursed Demon Emperor seemed to be a little afraid of the majestic middle-aged man and didn't want to compete for the position of commander. Ordering you? I don't have the time for that, but it's good that you agree. Lord of Fear, what do you say? I don't care. The Lord of Fear was expressionless. If it were another demon who spoke to them like this, they would have been torn apart. The reason why they were afraid of the majestic middle-aged man was because the other party was stronger than them. No matter where they were, strength was respected. So what if you were cruel and inhumane? Even if your name could scare children to tears, in the face of absolute strength, they were inferior. The strength of the Troll Emperor was not just a little higher than theirs, But his magic power was even more vigorous and boundless. After receiving the two's replies, the Troll Emperor nodded with satisfaction. Although the cursed Demon Emperor and the Lord of Fear were not as strong as him, it was a critical moment now. It would not be good for everyone if they fell out. Emperor Yinsha, where is your senior brother, the Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor? The Troll Emperor asked the evil spirit camp. There was only one person leading the evil spirit. This person's face was yellow and ordinary, but his eyes were like a poisonous snake. In terms of mysteriousness, he was even more mysterious than the Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor. He was sealed again. Hearing the other party mention the Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor, Emperor Yinsha frowned and said, "Sealed again? Who did it?" Generally speaking, seals were very difficult to remove. Only those ancient seals would become loose due to the corrosion of time. Now that the great battle was imminent, where would they have the time to unseal the Yin-Wind Demonic Emperor? Even if they were given 10 years, it wouldn't be enough. After all, their research on seals was inferior to humans. If I'm not mistaken, it should be Yi Chen, Xianhu, and the Demon Flower Emperor. Their auras are still lingering at the scene. Emperor Yinsha flicked his fingernails, a mysterious killing intent appearing on his face. Yi Chen. The Troll Emperor had heard this name from other demons more than once. This boy was a rare genius. He was probably only 35 or 36 years old. Among the demons, 35 or 36 years old was impossible to achieve anything. I'll deal with this brat. Once I kill him, I should be able to make the others despair even faster. The Troll Emperor was very clear that Yi Chen had unknowingly become the symbol of Elysium, the spiritual pillar of many life and death kings. Everyone hoped for a miracle to happen to him. If he was cut off, it would undoubtedly be a huge blow to the people of Elysium. Leave that Xianhu to me. It's been a long time since I've tasted a human queen. Last time, it was completely useless, and she was played to death very quickly. The cursed Demon Emperor licked his lips, revealing a mouthful of yellow teeth. Death Path, a vast expanse of primal chaos. Outside the Death Path was an even more boundless starry sky. The countless stars were like diamonds. In the starry sky that was unknown how far away from the Death Path, a dense black cloud appeared. The black cloud moved faster and faster, sweeping past the stars one after another. Only after getting closer did one realize that it was not a black cloud, but a fleet of completely sealed battleships. These battleships were entirely black, looking like huge shuttles. Dazzling blue flames were surging on both sides and at the rear of the battleships. It was precisely this flame that allowed the battleships to move as fast as light, without any sound or presence. If someone were here, they would definitely recognize these battleships. Each of these battleships was extremely valuable, and there were actually hundreds of them here. Go through space. An order came from inside the battleships. Yes, connect to the space stone's energy and go through space. 10, 9, 8, 7, 2, 1. Buzz, 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 buzz. In front of the battleships, the space twisted, forming a horizontal funnel. The battleships rapidly entered and eventually disappeared. In the void of primal chaos, countless faint multicolored lights flickered. These lights were emitted by the huge gems on the exterior of the battleships. The interior of the battleship was extremely luxurious. At the head of the battleship, there was a small conference room. Inside, a dozen demons were discussing something. Haha, this time, we demons have mobilized an army of 2 million. Sweeping through Elysium will be a cinch. At that time, all the resources inside will belong to us demons. The humans inside will also become our slaves. How much wealth would that be? You should know that human women are very popular outside. This amount of wealth is incalculable. Humans have the fastest reproduction rate. Once we sell a batch, we will immediately replenish another batch. We will never be able to sell all of them, unless we sell the entire world at once. Who would be so foolish as to sell an entire world? But counting it, this is already the third inhabited world that we have conquered. This time, when we go to Elysium, I must get 100 beautiful human women to be my slaves. Everyone, don't be too happy too early. In ancient times, many races invaded Elysium. Although the people of other races in Elysium have all died, other than us demons, the evil spirit race's forces are still not weak. If we want to dominate the entire Elysium, our chances are not very high. At most, we will take 60 to 70%. Page. The evil spirit race's forces are far inferior to us demons. Giving them 20% is already not bad. I wonder how many troops the evil spirit race will mobilize this time. In another part of the starry sky, there were also 200 battleships flying in the chaos. The demons are very powerful, so they probably won't give us a 60 to 40 split. In my opinion, it's already not bad for the evil spirit race to get 30%. No matter where the demons are, they have always been domineering. I'm just afraid that we won't even get 30%. You guys have never worked with the demons before, so you don't know how domineering they are. No way. We also mobilized 1 million troops this time. Could it be that we can only get 20%? The demons are not 4 times stronger than us, so why should they get 80%? It's still too early to talk about this now. Elysium is not easy to deal with. In ancient times, many of our races mobilized tens of millions of troops, but we still failed to conquer it. Instead, we suffered heavy casualties. It's not too late to talk about this after we conquer Elysium. Hehe, what's there to be afraid of? The ancient times of Elysium are different from the modern times. Back then, they could freely enter and exit their own world. There were many experts, and they had the home ground. What about the modern times? They are extremely weak, and our evil spirit race and demons have many experts among them. It will be easy to conquer Elysium. That's true, but even a lion has to use its full strength to capture a rabbit. We can't be careless. Outside the dead end, there was a floating mountain peak. On the mountain peak, many palaces stood. Inside one of the palaces, 3 evil spirit race experts and 6 demons gathered together. Their cultivation bases were all terrifyingly high, all of them at the 5th sky of life and death realm. It should be known that outside of Elysium, the 5th sky of life and death realm was equivalent to 7-star battle power. In the blink of an eye, we've already guarded the entrance of Elysium for more than 90 years. When the 100 years is up, someone will come to replace us. 90 years is just a blink of an eye. We're very lucky. We'll be leaving in a few years, but who would have thought that it would be time for us to invade Elysium again? Yeah, Elysium has fallen, so we can take the opportunity to make some profits. The army should be here soon, right? There's no rush. It'll only be a few days later. Suddenly, the eyes of the leading demons lit up. They're here. Swish. As he spoke, his figure flickered and flew out of the palace, followed by the other 8. Unknowingly, hundreds of puppet battleships had appeared not far away from the floating mountain peak. The battleships on the right were all black, and there were 400 of them. The battleships on the left were grey, and there were 200 of them. Altogether, there were 600 battleships. Judging from the size of these battleships, each of them could carry 5,000 people. 600 battleships would be 3 million soldiers. The leading battleships opened, and dozens of people walked out. Among them, the strongest was at the 5th sky of life and death realm, while the weakest was at the 3rd sky of life and death realm. Everyone, you've worked hard. Haha, it's nothing. It's only 100 years. Although the 9 people guarding the dead end were also at the 5th sky of life and death realm, their strength was much higher than other experts at the same level. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been sent to guard the dead end. Blood Rain, I didn't expect to see you this time. Haha, you've been guarding here for more than 90 years, right? Don't worry, as long as we conquer Elysium, we'll definitely get you some treasures. I'll give you as many beauties as you want. The 2 demons seemed to be familiar with each other, and they started chatting. This time, we'll definitely win. Inside, 3 of our great demon emperors have escaped. They are Lord Troll Emperor, Lord of Fear, and Lord Cursed Demon Emperor. Evil Spirit Race has suffered a bit this time. Lord Yin Wind Demonic Emperor has been sealed again, leaving only Lord Emperor Yinsha. In the invasion of Elysium, Evil Emperor and Demon Emperor were the strongest. Each and every one of them was at the 7th sky of life and death realm. As for 8th Sky of Life and Death Realm, it was not that they couldn't come, but the key was that Elysium's suppression was too powerful. The stronger one was, the greater the suppression. 8th Sky of Life and Death Realm entering Elysium would only be a bit more powerful than 7th Sky of Life and Death Realm. Moreover, it would damage one's foundation. Therefore, apart from the ancient era, no 8th Sky of Life and Death Realm would enter Elysium. Once they died, they wouldn't even have a place to cry. After all, being killed by the enemy with one's strongest strength was better than being killed by the enemy with 2 Sky of Life and Death Realm. As for 9th Sky of Life and Death Realm, don't even think about it. 9th Sky of Life and Death Realm was very rare in every race. Not to mention the fact that they were unwilling to come. Even if they were willing, the race's higher-ups wouldn't allow them to come. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.